for the Kickoff Show.
What a win for the 49ers!
It's Sunday, and we're locked in on the red and gold.
What a run by George Kittle!
It is the Kickoff Show. Evan Giddings alongside Lorenzo Neal. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone out there. Thank you for tuning in here on 95.7 The Game. We are taking you up until the 5:20 kick. 49ers and Seahawks. Week 12 here in the NFL. Lorenzo Neal, my man Lo, what's going on, man? Happy Turkey Day. How you doing?
Hey, I'm great. Happy Turkey Day to you and all of our 49er fans. I'm excited today about this game. You know this game has been legendary for years. The Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers throw the records out, throw coaching out. This is just two teams that don't like each other. I like to say if you can't get along, you might as well get it on, and that's what they're going to do tonight.
And, of course, the 49ers are trying to go for a third straight victory. They're trying to go also for a fourth straight win if you include the postseason against these Seahawks. It's the 51st all-time meeting between these NFC West foes. The last time they saw each other, Low, the 49ers put a thumping on the Birds at San Francisco, by the way, in the divisional round, 41-23. Actually in the wild card round last week. But San Francisco's coming off their own victory against the Buccaneers, 27-14 last week at Levi's Stadium. And Low, we got to start where we picked up off with the 49ers, and that was a flawless, statistically perfect performance from their quarterback, Brock Purdy. What did you make first of the Buccaneers game last week? And what did you see specifically from number 13? Because right now it feels like he's playing, if not the best ball, of course, of his season. He might be playing the best ball of any quarterback in the NFL right now.
Yeah, I thought you saw consistency. I think the week before, though, I think that was almost the 49ers' finest hour. When you think about what they were able to do, Evan, against a team that they went on the road and took care of the Jacksonville Jaguars in the fashion in which they did it, they motorboated them. I absolutely loved that, brother. I absolutely loved it. But this week, I tell you, last week, watching them play against the Tampa Bay team that's grading in the red zone, that can get after your defense, that can play some cover zero, that can do a lot of great things on defense. I was impressed with that win. And yes, Brock Purdy was Purdy-esque, and he was absolutely great.
This is the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. My name is Evan Giddings. That is Lorenzo Neal. We are taking you up until 5:20 kickoff. San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. Low 49ers are 7-3. Seahawks are 6-4. So a game back right now for the division. But when we talk about the importance tonight of this game, specifically for the 49ers, is it something that you look at and say it's all about the division? That's what comes first? Or do you have your eyes sort of set on something further? Because for me, I think this game is important from a multitude of perspectives. One, it's to establish dominance against a team that has had your number in Seattle 2 of the last 10 times. Meanwhile, you also have a chance to step on the throats of a divisional opponent that's also got some tough games coming up. A win tonight doesn't officially clinch the division like it did last year in their Thursday night meeting later on in the season, but it does put the NFC West certainly in a stranglehold for the San Francisco 49ers. That's, to me, why this is such a huge game.
It is. In Seattle, you got to realize they're coming off a devastating loss last week against the Rams. The Rams, that game, the officials and the Seattle Seahawks they hand-delivered that game, to the Rams, because Seattle should have beat that game and won that game against the Rams, and this game would have had so much more meaning. So it's just going to be exciting. You're absolutely right. This puts a stranglehold for the 49ers on this division, NFC West. So they need to come out and play very, very dominant. They need to come out and play great, because Seattle understands that. Seattle understands that, hey, look, they got 2 shots against the Niners. They need to try to win both these games. So I think you're going to see a motivated team. These teams don't like each other. Something about Seattle. You heard Kittle in his post game about, hey, playing Thanksgiving Day against Seattle. You're hearing all the Niners say the right things, especially when it comes to Seattle, this rivalry and how much bad blood they have between each other.
Well, and that's the thing, because throughout this week, Lo, it's Seahawks week, right? The 49ers and the Seahawks, these are the teams that have hated each other for a very long time. And Lumen Field, formerly CenturyLink, has been a place that historically has been difficult for San Francisco to play. But the guy that kind of, for me, puts that to rest a little bit is Brock Purdy, because the first real road test of his NFL career with the 49ers last season was at Lumen Field. It was on a short week. And it was after he had a broken rib that he suffered the week before in his first career start. So Brock Purdy has already, in a sense, passed this test. And it's not necessarily that I think it's going to be an easy game for the 49ers or the Seahawks. But Brock Purdy, when you talk about the rivalry and how difficult of a place it's going to be loud, the 12th man is going to make it difficult. You're going to be on silent counts, especially later on in that football game if it gets close. Some of that sort of house of horrors feeling that Seattle used to be, in my opinion, now doesn't feel as daunting with a guy like Brock Purdy, who's beaten them not once but also twice. And, of course, the latter time was in the postseason.
No question, Evan, and that's why I'm in here. You see my background. You see me looking nice and swole. Look at the guns. I got the weight behind me. It's Seattle week. I'm fired up. I'm going to be doing some reps in between our segments, getting some bench press in, getting pumped up for this game. Right up to kickoff, bro. I'm going to get jacked. I'm going to get swole. I'm going to make this game. We're going to make them feel it. And that's what they have to do. The Niners got to make the Seattle Seahawks feel it from jump. They got to come out and smack them, hit them in the face from the snap, the whistle. You saw the way the Niners struggled. And why they struggled the last several weeks prior to the last 2 is because what happened? Defense wasn't getting the ball back for Purdy. Purdy started pushing, started sweating it. And that's when you saw this team have consistent make errors and make mistakes, because when the defense of the 49ers are playing high caliber defense, 3 and out, you give the opportunity to the offense to have the ball, more opportunities to score. And that's when the Niners are playing at a very, very high level. When Purdy in the defense, everyone's playing together and they're not playing with that pressure. And that's what you've been seeing from the last 2 weeks, is playing from in front, being consistent on defense and an offense. And that's when I think the 49ers is a tough out and one of the best teams in the National Football League, when they're playing in all 3 phases of the game.
I'm 100% with you. Yeah, when they're playing complementary football, the 49ers are damn tough to beat. And that's the reason why they're a 7-point favorite on the road on a short week in hostile territory. But you touched on the defense, which to me is such an integral part to what the 49ers have to do, because for the first time last week, I thought the 49ers in the fourth quarter of that game, the offense was dominant in the first half, dominant really through their first 3 quarters. But in the fourth quarter, the offense took their foot off the gas pedal a little bit. And for the first time this season, I thought we saw the defense be able to help the offense out, not once, but multiple times, shutting the door in the football game against a team in Tampa Bay that they should have stepped on their throats probably a little bit earlier. So for me, I am looking at the defense, because last 2 weeks, 3 points against Jacksonville on the road, 14 points against Tampa Bay. They held the Buccaneers 1 of 3 in the red zone. Of course, they got that big pick from the rookie Jair Brown to end that football game. But is this a defense that can now carry that on the road the way we saw them out of the bye week, Lo? Because with the addition of Chase Young, a new infusion on the defensive line, you now have lost Hufanga for the year with an ACL tear. How does this defense continue its winning ways? Because the offense has shown a relative consistency even during that 3-game losing streak. To me, the offense was maybe a play here, a play there away, but the defense was getting gashed. How do you see the defense showing up in Seattle against a team that, to their own credit, do have some weapons that can hurt you in the passing game?
Yeah, I think that the 49ers defense, they have to continue to get better. I think they're a work in progress. When you look at this defense and watching the way that they continue to make strides and make decisions and get better, they're going to have to do that, Evan. Because when you think about what's going on, you lost your Fonga. Fonga, when you think about what he can bring to the defense, he plays in the box. He can play deep. He can guard a tight end. He can play down against the run. He can come off the corner. You lost a guy on defense that's a ball hawk who's always around the ball, knows how to get interceptions, knows how to disguise things, kind of like little Troy Polamalu-esque. You lost. That's a big blow that I don't think you just replace. Now, can you still hold court and still play good defense and fundamentally? Yes. But I think Hufanga brought a tangible that is hard to replace, just lining guys up, making the right checks. He was he's the quarterback on the back end of that defense. So yes, this defense still can get better. This defense still, you're right, with Chase and all the guys that they brought on. I just think that you're going to have to play even more solid football because Hufanga's a big blow.
Yeah, no doubt. And, of course, coming off an all-pro season last year in his second year and having to build off of that, unfortunately getting it cut short, torn ACL, he goes down against the Buccaneers. But to me, when I'm looking at that defense and what they're kind of going to have to replace, I do think that Hufanga, he's been susceptible to the deep play, as the majority of that secondary has throughout this year. But this is a Seahawks team that, in terms of their third down efficiency on offense, 30th in the league. Red zone percentage, offense, 22nd. This is a team that struggles to continue to put together drives. So the one area that they can hurt you on the scoreboard is on those chunk plays, is on those explosive plays. I know Hufanga maybe didn't, he wasn't exactly, perfect in that area. But to me, Lo, this is where I do want to see what the secondary is able to do against the combination of guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, because Geno Smith, he's going to be a little bit under the weather. He's playing with a tricep injury, but he will be active for this game. They can move the ball down the field, but I don't think that this offense is one to sustain drives. So if the 49ers can get them into those third down, even short situations, to me, there'll be less pressure on that secondary, because the only way I personally see the Seahawks winning this game is going to be in a shootout.
Yeah, I can see a shootout, but I don't necessarily that. I think also how you win this game is turnovers. When you Seattle, you say, let's not turn the ball over offensively, and let's go create some takeaways. When you think about Seattle and look at the way Geno Smith, he's played very, very effective. He's been played as pretty good as a quarterback. But yeah, I think that you're right, that it'd have to be a shootout. And I think the Niners in a shootout, they still have a lot more weapons, and you give the Niners the edge. So Seattle's going to have to return on the 12th man. They're going to have to depend a lot on the 12th man, which is their crowd, and they're going to have to depend on some turnovers. You need to win the turnover battle if you're Seattle. And I'm telling you right now, Pete Carroll's pushing turnovers, and he's saying we got to win special teams, and it's going to come down to field position. So there's a lot of things that the Niners have to be aware of. And Kyle Shanahan, the way that he coaches and his coaching staff, they understand what Seattle's thinking. So it's just going to be a great chess match tonight. And it's these two teams, they always play each other pretty tough. And yes, the 49ers have gotten the edge and took them to the woodpile as of late. But hey, Seattle understands that, and they've taken the 49ers. They've had their share of taking the 49ers to the woodshed as well. Yeah,
and Pete Carroll has taken Kyle Shanahan to the woodshed more times than not. I think Kyle Shanahan 3-5 in his last 8 against the Seahawks as a whole. The 49ers 3 out of their last 11, or 3-8 in their last 11 games up in Seattle. So, no, this is a team that has defended home field against the 49ers more time than not. But when you look at this game, Lo, and to me, this is what also makes it a little bit scary for the 49ers is this is a Seahawks team that, as you alluded to off the top, is coming off a difficult loss, yes. But really, since Week 9, in which they got throttled by 34 points in Baltimore, they have not looked very good. It took a last-second comeback against Washington, a walk-off field goal at home to beat the Commanders, who have looked lesser than after their loss to the Giants last week. So the Seahawks are not playing great football, and you also take a look at what they got coming up after this, at Dallas, and then they come to Levi's Stadium to play the 49ers again, and then they're home against Philadelphia. So this is a Seahawks team that if they want to remain not just in the race for the NFC West, but in the race for the playoffs, this is almost a must-win for them when you look at the big boys they got coming up, including San Francisco again. Not that it doesn't mean I don't feel the 49ers can take care of business on the road, but you're going to get Seattle's best punch, especially when they got home field on a short week.
Yeah, and I think the 49ers, I'm going to tell you right now, I think they're going to try to light up Geno Smith.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you're going to see this guy guarantees on the ground. I don't care. I take a PI. I mean, not PI, but I take a little rough in the passer here and there. I'm pushing him. I'm hitting him on the ground. I'm pushing him. Well, no, I'm serious. You got to come out and play physical. You know this guy tricep is hurt. You saw him at the end of that game grimacing and understanding that. You better hit him. You better take some shots, not to try to say I'm trying to put him out of the game. But let me tell you, when you're playing and you know a guy's a little gimpy, you go for that. I remember when we were playing playing for the Chargers and we're playing against the, Bill Belichick and, that team over there in New England when they was in dominance. And Damian had a knee, coming off that knee. You remember that game?
Yeah.
And they went straight for his knee, one of the first plays. I remember I had a broken leg just coming off 4 weeks of having surgery. And I remember Teddy Busky goes right for that leg, tries to cut me in the hole. I'm like, okay, I know what kind of game this is. Let me tell you, it's not cheap play. It's to see, hey, let me see if this guy, is he really over his injury? And I'm going to tell you, teams do that all the time. You target an area where you hear that a guy's hurt, and he's feeling a little bit of pain, it's nothing wrong with testing it out. And look for the Niners to test out Geno Smith quite often and early this tonight.
And I think that also starts with the DC and Steve Wilks, a guy that it's interesting, Lo, because we heard his name thrown out around a lot during the 3-game losing streak. But as soon as the 49ers get back on track and defensively they start to do their thing again, I mean, you look up at the totality of the season, and this is a Niners team that in terms of scoring defense is number 1 in football. They've allowed 15.7 points per game, and their defensive coordinator has been a little maligned. So I do want to give him some credit, and I do think to your point about testing Geno Smith and his health, we might see, as opposed to last week where I thought Steve Wilks was maybe conservative more so, and especially during Jacksonville, only blitzed about 5-10% of the time compared to the 20-25-ish that we've seen so far this year. I do think, to your point, we are going to see Steve Wilks dial up that blitz to try and get to the quarterback a little more, to make Geno Smith at least have to think when he's dropping back 5 steps, 7 steps, because he's going to have to think about getting that ball out quick with guys coming on the back end, guys attacking from his front, and Steve Wilks just making sure that he is not going to have a clean pocket today.
No question. And I think it's just when you look at media, it's called lazy media. I like to think about it because everyone's like, oh, Steve Wilks, oh, is he getting ready to get fired? Is he in the hot seat? Are they going to change DCs at the end? Of course not. Well, he needs to come out of the box and come downstairs. Dude, it was all just noise. Mm-hmm. Cal Shanahan made some statements, and and people looked at it and try and start running with this, and then it's horrible because when you hear these things that's coming out, it was just I never blinked. I just think that, hey, look, this Steve Wilks has been around. This guy's shown me that he can coach in the National Football League. He's been a proven defensive coordinator for years. You won't just hire this guy. If you thought this guy does not have what it takes to have your defense play at a high level, Kyle Shanahan wouldn't have hired him as a sympathy hire. Jim Wilks, this is a good coach. He is a good defensive coach, and he's going to ride this ship, and he's getting guys to play, and they're buying into the system. And I'm telling you, this team is fine. They got to continue to tackle well. They got to continue to do it collectively, and that's what they have to do collectively. This is not a defense. This is defense, offense, and special teams. I keep alluding to that because when this team is playing its best, that's when all phases, all 3 is playing good well. When you think about it, defense, when they were giving up 18 yards on a run, first play against the Minnesota Vikings, you look at the offense, how it struggled. They go hand in hand. Just like you say, you got to play complementary football on the 49ers. When the Niners play that way and the offense sustain drives, the defense can stay fresh and go out on the field and get 3 outs. When they don't give up big plays, when special teams kick the ball off and pin them inside the 20, it's hard for offenses to drive 80, 90 yards against the San Francisco 49ers defense because they're too tough. It's tough when you give the Niners a short field that they're not going to score, not going to score and get at least 3 points at it. So when this team is playing complementary football, they're tough out, Evan, and that's why I think this Niner team is poised make a run, but they have to stay consistent because you see, once they're not consistent, they're very beatable and they become burnable.
No, I'm 100% with you. And then back to the math as far as the reason why this game is huge is, you look up at Philadelphia, they won on Monday night, tough game on the road at Arrowhead, now 9-1. They got 2 games up on you. The Detroit Lions earlier today took a loss to the Packers. That means with a win, the 49ers find themselves right there in the midst for the 2 seed. So obviously the 1 seed is still, out of reach, but if Philadelphia loses this weekend to Buffalo, which is a losable game, then you set up a potential chance to go into Philadelphia next week and put yourself in contention for the 1 seed. This is a massive game for the 49ers. Yes, it's a rivalry game. Yes, it's in a tough environment. Yes, you're trying to prove something to lock up the NFC West, but you also need to maintain striking distance with the Eagles, I think, Lo, to your point, because not that they can't make noise, and it's not that I don't think this team couldn't go on the road and win multiple playoff games, but if you can make your life that much easier, if you could get yourself that first-round bye, and if you could position yourself to host an NFC title game, then I think that Kyle Shanahan and this team has to go for it. And so that's another reason that this game is huge, and I think that in maybe not another season, not another situation, but it's a potentially trappy-type game because of its short week situation. Seattle is going to be playing with their backs up against the wall, and they've had some success, at least in the last 10 years against this Niners team, so they have reason to feel confident. But if you're the Niners, the reason why you can't let your foot up off the gas pedal even for a moment is because of the bigger picture, in addition to, of course, the guys across the sideline from you.
Yeah, I'm with you. Same church, same pew. Evan, you hit the nail right on the head. This Niner team understand what they are facing next week. It's a team you've been destined to play. You saw last year, in the NFC Championship game, your guy goes down. Purdy goes down in the second series of this game, and it's over. The game was over before it started. You didn't even have one quarter because now you were done to your second and third string. You saw the way that game matured. It was over. The Niners had no chance of getting to the Super Bowl. So now when you fast forward, you're in a situation now where you have your team healthy. So it's going to be an interesting scenario tonight to watch the Niners come out, because they're not even thinking about next week. You are thinking about Seattle and Seattle only, because if that game is going to have the bearing that it needs to have, you got to first take care of Seattle.
Well, and of course, we're also going to have a couple of guests coming up here on the Kickoff show. It's going to be former quarterback Hugh Millan. Also does Seahawks stuff with KJR in Seattle. So he's going to join us at 3 o'clock, Low. I'm looking forward to that. John Dickinson, our reporter for the 49ers, is live at Lumen Field. He is going to be joining us at 4 o'clock as we move on towards the 5:20 kick between the San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks. My name is Evan Giddings. That is Lorenzo Neal. And, quickly, Low, just before we get to the break here at the end of this segment, we're talking about the 49ers keeping their eyes on the prize. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're looking down the line. But someone like Kyle Juszczyk has discussed the Super Bowl or bust mentality. And you've played for teams that have had legitimate aspirations to go all the way. When you take it, how, I guess, do you separate the big picture view from the 1 week at a time? Or is it just a simple, look, we're going 100% each and every week? And especially in a game like this, too, it's kind of a built-in mini-bye. If you can get through the war of a Thursday night short week, they have an extra 3 days next week. Is this a situation where you expect the 49ers to go all out, that it's going to be a body bag type of game? Or do you think that they might look a little, not unrefreshed, but a little lighter just because it's a short week?
No, I think you're going to see a 49ers team come out and play really tough and physical. And to be honest, I know this game, you throw out records, you throw out everything, goes out the window when you're playing against Seattle. The Niners know what's here. Hey, let's face this. You win tonight, Kyle Shanahan's going to tell guys, I'll see you Sunday. I'll see you Monday. These guys would look forward to that break. You know the kind of break that they have right in front of them. And now on Sunday, they get to sit and watch Buffalo Bills try to beat a Philadelphia team, which should happen because Buffalo's in a must situation. They're really negative. And Josh Allen, he's about due for a big game. So I think without a doubt, this game, the Niners come out on fire.
No, I'm with you, man. And I think it does all start with number 13. Like, Brock Purdy, to me, is a guy that, and same, honestly, for the 49ers. I kind of view him and them in the same breath, which is if you give these guys a lead, if you let them get out to a hot start, if you let them dictate the script, it is curtains. And I mean that in the best kind of way. It's not as if, I don't believe that Brock Purdy can't come from behind or win a close game, but it's if you don't have to, then why would you? And so far in their 7 wins this season, it's either been a blowout, it's been a bigger blowout, or if it's been a biggest blowout. And that's kind of what last week and really the last 2 weeks have felt like. So in this game, Lo, as we move on with the kickoff show, to me, coming up next, I do want to get into Brock Purdy specifically because I think that there's a quarterback that's still in the league. He used to play in Seattle that has kind of a similar type of feel, a similar type of start to his career, and I want to get into a comparison between Brock Purdy along with Russell Wilson. But as we move along with the kickoff show, again, a reminder, we got Hugh Millan, former quarterback, does work up in Seattle. He's going to join us at 3 o'clock. John Dickinson live at 4 o'clock as we move along the kickoff show here on 95.7 The Game. My name is Evan Giddings. That is Lorenzo Neal. We'll be back after this break. We are sponsored by AC Transit.
Get in where you fit in. AC Transit wants you to drive the East Bay. Take the wheel of your career and level up. No driving experience required. Paid training is provided. New bus operators are eligible for a $2,000 bonus. Secure the bag. Apply today at AC Transit.
Hey, folks, this is it. The best weekend of the year for buying a TV. Forget inflation, because now you've got deflation with Black Friday.
Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
This is the Kickoff Show. Evan Giddings alongside Lorenzo Neal. We are presented by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURE or visit habaslaw.com. A happy Thanksgiving to everyone. Lo, I know we're kind of breaking things up. Maybe you just had a plate before the show. Maybe you're digging in your third plate during a commercial break. Kind of take us through, because you got the gym in the background. You're about to hit the bench in the middle of this. Like, what do you got going on for Thanksgiving today?
I'm just working on the guns, man. Just working on the guns. I'm sitting there in the garage, I said, hey, I'm going to get a little workout in. Today's the day you just run around, go over, see some mom, dad, get your family. Everyone's just happy to be thankful. So much to be thankful for. We get to talk sports. People are at home. People are in their car, driving to their loved one's house, and they're listening to us, you and I, Evan, and it's just awesome. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite holidays. It's just because you get to eat and eat and eat and just be thankful and watch football. Watching these amazing games today, watching Green Bay go toe-to-toe with an 8-2 Lions team at the time, and just how it doesn't matter. You take record out, and you saw how thankful they were, and you saw the pregame, and talking about Jordan, talking about the different guys that were playing in both these games, and just the family. Thanksgiving's about family, and there's so many things that I think, Evan, we're all grateful for, but for me, it's about eating, it's about loving, it's about making calls that you don't make maybe once a year to tell people that you love them. That's what I love about Thanksgiving, Evan. That's what I love.
I love that, Lo. And yeah, look, it's a happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I'm going to be hanging out with my family after this show, so I'm looking forward to that. And, of course, everyone's looking forward to kind of surrounding around the television with their family and watching the 49ers, because we got a great game coming up tonight, 5:20 kick between the 49ers and the Seahawks up in Seattle. And also, look, if you want to chime in with something you're thankful for, if you want to tell us what you're looking forward to about this game, what you got cooking up, what your favorite sides are, 888-957-9570 is the phone number. Also the number for the the Comcast business text line. Shout out to the YouTube chat powered by First NorCal Credit Union. And Lo, but right before the break, we were kind of discussing comparisons. And it's obviously a huge game for the 49ers. They have a chance to separate themselves in the NFC West, have a chance to draw even with Detroit after the loss that you mentioned for the 2 seed in the NFC. But speaking about Brock Purdy and coming off of his perfect game against the Buccaneers, it just sort of got me thinking about fits, situations, performances, productions. And it's interesting that they're playing Seattle, because to me, the last young quarterback that won a Super Bowl with a great surrounding. Obviously, Mahomes is, he's an all-timer. He's got 2. But to me, Russell Wilson's kind of the guy that sort of steps into mind when we're thinking about guys who are not first-round picks, not chosen ones, came in, earned their stripes, maybe got an opportunity, maybe forced their way into the starting spot immediately, and then have made the most of great defenses, a fantastic running game, great coaching staffs. And how much do you see Russell Wilson in Brock Purdy, or do you think it's a little bit off?
No, I think that's a great analogy when you think about it, E. When you think about what Purdy has inherited, he has a defense that, when you talk about Seattle's defense when they had the Legion of Doom or the Legion of Boom, what that looked like, and you think about the Niners, the way that they're built, it was comparable to Seattle's defense right now. Maybe the secondary of Seattle's were better. The up front is better for the Niners, but they both of them were formula defense that said, hey, quarterback, just don't go out and lose the game. Just don't turn the ball over, and we'll find a way to win games and win big and go deep in the playoffs. And that's what Russell had to do. Russell took this offense and he said, okay, had a great running game, didn't have crazy great receivers, but he said he was going to scramble, make some plays with his legs, do what he needed to do to keep this team in it, and play behind a good defense and don't turn the ball over. That's why you look at a team that lost today. You look at a Detroit Lions team. Think about the turnover battle. They lost that game because it came down to turnovers. 14 points in the first quarter off of turnovers, and it could have been more. 3 sack fumbles, interception by the quarterback. So when you're talking about the similarities, what do we always say? When the Niners were losing, don't turn the ball over. You look at Purdy, Turn the ball over against Cincinnati. Turn the ball over those games, when you played against the Minnesota Vikings. So it was about the turnovers. When the 49ers take care of the football and Purdy's taking care of the football and his defense is playing well, I think that's a great similarity between him and Russ. Not great similarities.
Yeah, and look, I know Russ at this point in his career, we don't necessarily think of him as a game managing type of quarterback, but and Brock Purdy is not that either. But to me, the dynamic ability of them both is kind of what we're getting at in relation to playing within the system and not trying to do too much.
Overachievers.
Yeah, because the system, quite honestly, is going to get you a lot.
Exactly. Guys that understand the system that they're in and say, look, we're going to play at a high level. We're going to take care of the ball and we're going to make things happen. That's what Purdy did. And that's what Russell Wilson has done. And think about Russell Wilson now. You look at the offense. He doesn't have a bunch of great weapons, but think about how people wrote him off. You think about Purdy, how, like the people say, oh, this guy, Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the draft, all the things that were surrounding him. Then he comes onto the scene and just says, I'm going to do my job. I'm not going to turn the ball over. I'm going to take care of the ball. I'm going to play consistent football. And I think that's what we're talking about. You're not talking about the athletic ability of Russell being able to scramble better. You're talking about the system, and you're talking about the cards that both these quarterbacks was giving and how they both flourished in the opportunity that was presented in front of these two young men when they were stuck in that situation, were thrusted in that place of starting quarterback, and they both look like they did well at the prospective times.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And it's also interesting, too, because we didn't really hold, at least from what I can remember, we never held the situation that Russell Wilson was brought into, that he inherited. We never held that against him. All we did was talk about how great the defense was and how Russell Wilson was an excellent complement to that. I don't think this 49ers defense is the Legion of Boom, but I also think that this 49ers offense is probably more dynamic than the offense that Russell Wilson had. You look at his first three seasons, turned the ball over. The most times he turned it over in a season was 10, and the most touchdowns he threw was 26. This guy wasn't lighting it up in the passing game, even the way that Brock Purdy is now. And so to me, the similarities are, stark because of the amount of wins that they're racking up. But really, Brock Purdy, when he plays mistake-free football, I find it very difficult to believe that any team outside of maybe, the top one or two in the league, Philadelphia, maybe Kansas City, you could throw some other teams in there. But to me, if Brock Purdy takes care of the football, though, much in the way that Russell Wilson took care of the ball early on in his career in Seattle, this is a team that is just going to roll. And in a game like tonight, we're talking about ways that Seattle can win this game, or really the way that I like to phrase it is the way that the 49ers could lose this game. It's if Brock Purdy reverts back to the guy that turned the ball over 5 times in a 3-game span, as opposed to the other 7 wins in which he hasn't thrown a pick.
Oh, no question. He turns the ball over, and Seattle wins the turnover battle. 3-1, 4-1. They win. There's a possibility they win this game. If they win the battle, 2-1, I don't think they still win the game. But it's going to have to be, they're going to have to win by get 3 more turnovers than the Niners. If they do that, they're in this game. Field position is going to be another thing. And like you said, if Purdy, though, if he doesn't turn the ball over, if he plays consistent and they just do how they play the 49ers stat type of football, you get a win and you win big tonight. Even though this is a rival game, the 49ers, you've seen this team, especially when they're playing at a high level and guys are in the right position and they're playing fundamentally sound football. When they're out of pocket and they're not tackling well, this team, you've seen teams can run through them offensively, so they have to tackle. When the offensive line, when you didn't have the big fella and didn't have someone creating that new line of scrimmage, running the ball, you saw when you had McCaffrey injured with the ribs, there was no places and didn't have Trent Williams. This offense was stifled, and he meant that much to the offense. Debo, just Trent Williams and Debo Samuels, the presence that they bring to the team, how they walk out on a game before the game with the boombox, it gives you that big brother effect. The big brother effect, hey, you can walk out with your big brother, even if your big brother's not going to fight, just because his presence there, it makes you better. It makes you tougher. And that's what I think the 49ers have in Trent and Debo, when those guys walk out with the team, locked arms, and they walk out, it automatically makes them better.
That's Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. This is the Kickoff Show. About 20 minutes away, we're going to have Hugh Millan. He's a former quarterback that does Seahawks related content for KJR in Seattle. He's going to join us. Also, John Dickinson will hop on with us at about 4 o'clock. So stick around for that as we take you all the way up until kickoff between the 49ers and the Seahawks right here on 95.7 The Game. You know, it's interesting, Lo, because you bring up the weapons that Brock Purdy not necessarily needs, but when he has, I mean, it is just unbelievable to see what this offense can produce. And you referenced Trent along with Deebo Samuel. Well, there are a potential couple of losses the 49ers have sustained, not just, of course, Hufango's out for the year with the ACL tear, but also we're not exactly sure right now the status of the two guards for the 49ers. Right now, Aaron Banks is, limited in practice throughout this week. That's right, coming off the turf toe, didn't play. Spencer Burford didn't practice all week, so we saw them elevate a couple of offensive linemen, Corey Luciano and Jesse Davis. I know that Trent does so much for that offensive line, but when you're down a couple of guys, does that add more pressure to Brock Purdy? Because to me, I am looking for a guy like Deebo Samuel, who's kind of that quick-hitting, yards after catch, can get it behind the line of scrimmage and dance on a defense. When you're down a couple potential offensive linemen, I do think we're going to need to see more from Brock Purdy as far as how quickly he can get that ball out to his playmakers.
Yeah, you have to do that, and also your offensive lineman comes to scheme sometimes change. You get a lot of down blocking because, hey, look, the guys playing shade and playing half man, then you have guys blocked down. Not just that, now you have guys pulled. You just say, okay, my guard can't hold up, so what am I going to do? I'm going to pull that guard, and now he's going to be empty block. Now I got the backside guard going to pull and kick him out. So now I'm going to show a cat and mouse game up front. Do more wham blocks, do more words counter, do more ace and trade blocks where you have the tackle and tight end traying up to the backer, ace block, the center and guard, acing up to the Mike linebacker. So sometimes you create that double team when you can't play man-to-man blocking scheme because you don't have the talent or the manpower. Then you start doubling guys, and you start doubling with your scheme now. Say, how do I do that? Now I'm going to have my guard and center. They're going to double team a guy. So create a new line of scrimmage. I'm a block back on the other side. So those are different things you look for the Niners to do, because when you're hurting up front, these are some of the different ways that you hide some of your imperfection by double teaming guys. But when Big Trent's out there, just his presence and his attitude and the bravado. I watched that big fella run when he's pulling, when he's got the stretch plays going, he's running out on space, pulling out on a safety or even a DB or a linebacker. Trent is a phenomenal athlete. Watching this guy run and pull at 35 years old, he is legendary.
That is Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. 888-957-9570. If you want to call into the Kickoff Show, we're taking calls up until 5:20 between the Niners and the Seahawks. Also the number for the Comcast Business Text line. Chime in on YouTube if you're out there watching us. You can see Lo out there getting some sets in between segments. The man is strong. The man is ready to roll. And, Lo, talking about what could possibly phase the 49ers today. I was listening to Brian Baldinger, who was on with the Morning Roast early in the week, and he was talking about the phasing, particularly with Brock Purdy. I want to get your thoughts on this particular segment right here.
A lot of these guys, Drew Brees, they're just in the zone. You can say hello to Russell Wilson. He'll be nice. He'll say hello, but they're in their zone. You go up and talk to Brock Purdy, you can be talking about an ice cream parlor in Ames, Iowa. And you got his attention. That guy is as relaxed as you can possibly get. And I kind of like that. It kind of tells you that he already, it's like that big test, the big final exam, right?
Right.
And you've been just jamming yourself and all-nighters and you're just all the way up until the point where you walk into the class, take the test, and you're just jammed. And then there's that one nerd over there. He's out playing pickup basketball the day of the he already knows the answers. He already knows the answers to the test. He doesn't need to cram anymore. I kind of feel like Brock Purdy is a little bit like that guy.
I mean, speaking of being unfazed, Lorenzo Neal right now, everyone watching on YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. What, do you just get 15, 20 reps in there, Lo?
You saw that? That was 20. That was 20.
Couple hundred?
It was so, yeah, like nothing. You saw me bust out 20, because I'm listening to, Baldy. I love Baldy. He's got a finger like mine. I mean, me and him, we talk, and we get, he's got the twisted finger, and we talk about it. But what he's saying, look, When you're talking to guys like Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, they'll talk to you, but they're unfazed. They're in the moment. You can't get them off their game. He's talking about Brock Purdy. You talk about ice cream parlor in Iowa, and he's like, oh, yeah, he's into it. Because that's who he is. He's a kind young man, understanding that he's just been thrust into this leadership role, that he's leading a team, and he's leading a team that's not just average. He's leading a great team, and he understands that. That's what I love about Brock Purdy, though. He just understands what he's doing, and he's unfazed because the love of the game, and he just wants to be good. So I love Brock. I love what Baldy was saying about just quarterbacks in general, about some of these guys are unfazed. They can go out there and talk to you, but they already in it. They get it. They already know what it's about.
And one of those guys you mentioned, Russell Wilson, someone that we've kind of compared situations to with Brock Purdy, but the aura of a Drew Brees, the aura of a Russell Wilson now, the aura of Brock Purdy, it does seem like it has become infectious to the 49ers, and it's no disrespect to predecessors or peers that have been in the building that have played under center for San Francisco, but there's something different about this guy, Brock Purdy, and you can tell from listening to his teammates when they talk about him, because it's interesting, in the last few weeks, at the beginning of the year, there's people who are understandably doubting Brock Purdy and his ability, I think primarily because of the injury he sustained, as well as just how unbelievable he was last year. Could that continue? But now we're not seeing as many players step to the podium in defense. They're stepping to the podium low, I believe, in confirmation. And confirmation of what this guy is doing right now, because even though he's had a few bad games, as all quarterbacks do, what he's done is historic. He's got the highest quarterback rating his first 15 games in the NFL of anyone to strap him up. And he's just a ho-hum, humble guy from Iowa. Well, from Arizona, but from Iowa State. And he doesn't really seem to take it too seriously, nor himself too seriously. And I have to imagine if you're in the locker room and you're looking at this guy who's making $800K, but he's playing like he's making $50 million, it makes you feel more comfortable about your own standing within the locker room.
Yeah, you know what? He gets it. And I think that's what Baldy was talking about. Here's a guy that gets it. Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, those guys, they got it. They understood they're the quarterback, they're the face of the deal. You're not going to rattle them. They're going to be consistent. That's what Purdy does, I think, well, like Russell Wilson and like Drew Brees and like those Tom Brady's and like those guys. They're even killed. You see so many quarterbacks when they play well, they're on top of the moon, they're doing all this stuff. Purdy understands that they're coming. He understands that they're coming. He understands that it's going to be some noise. He understands that there's going to be that time where people are wishing they can talk about him. He was playing so well. Think about it. Every week, Brock Purdy's won, 10 straight? What was it? The injury, I know the injury didn't count, but he won 10, season, 9, whatever it was. Yeah, and so everyone was like, well, when is he going to do this? It turned into naysayers. It became so negative. It became Debbie Downer. Why? Because humans and people, they hate success, and they want to be the first to say, I told you it was going to have that stretch. And that's why I like that Brock Purdy wiped the sweat off his brow, got up off the canvas, started playing more, forgot about all the things that people were saying about him, and he got back up and he started playing Purdy football. That's all it takes. Once he stayed within himself and keeps trusting the system in which he's in, this team is going to be fine. Once he stops doing that and he lets the outside things and start forcing it, turning the ball over and playing outside of himself, this team's not going to be fine.
And right now, Brock Purdy is leading the league in completion percentage, just a tick over 70. The 49ers, as a team right now, have won 9 consecutive regular season games against NFC West opponents dating back to 2021, including sweeping the Seattle Seahawks in not just the regular season, but, of course, the wild card round last year, coming after that 41-23 victory. And the 49ers offense right now, Lo, is averaging 6.5 yards per play. And so even with maybe a slight dip right before the bye, I mean, this is an offense that is in the same league with the Miami Dolphins, with the Philadelphia Eagles. When you talk about efficiency, you talk about total yards. And I don't really care how it comes. It could be from the quarterback. It could be from Christian McCaffrey. It could be from a bevy of weapons. And that's, to me, right now, why the 49ers are playing with so much moxie and swagger and bravado, like you mentioned. It's because they know when they got a guy under center that can push the right buttons at the right time, that they are a very difficult football team to beat. And as much as I think it's going to be a tough game for them, even if this is a game that second half, one-score football game starts to get a little bit loud. The 12th man starts to show up under center, silent count. I don't feel like anyone in that huddle, and this is really what matters to me as a fan of football, it doesn't feel like anybody in the huddle, either defensively or offensively, doesn't feel like their guy, Brock Purdy, can get it done, can help you walk away with the victory. And when you have that kind of confidence, you're a very scary football team.
Oh, no question. You're absolutely right. The guys believe. They believe in Purdy. They believe in this offense. They believe in Kyle Shanahan. Guys believe in the defense. This team, even when they were in the midst of the storm, Fred Warner stood up at the podium and got to the mic and he said, "We got to tackle better. We got to play better." Mm-hmm. When the media and everyone came at the defense to DC, what did Yafunga and what did everyone say? They said, "We're not doing our job. This guy can't go out there and tackle. We're blowing plays. We're missing things. We're missing assignments." So when you think about this team and what the adversity that they've already faced, no one blinked. Everyone's talking about the world's falling. I was like, look, this team's got to play better. They knew they had to play better, but it was all fixable stuff. Stop turning the ball over. Stop giving up big plays on special teams. Start tackling on defense. Do the things that we know we can do that we're not doing. And once they start doing those things back again, fundamentally, like you just said, it is a tough out. This team, when they're playing 49er football and limited amount of mistakes, because you're still making mistakes when you're playing great football. But if you limit them, you are a hard team to beat. And the only way tonight they lose is injuries and they lose the turnover battle.
And going to help us kind of break down this football game coming up next is a former quarterback, Hugh Millan, played nearly a decade in the NFL, went to University of Washington, now does work at KJR up there in Seattle. So he's going to join us in just about 5-6 minutes on the other side of this break that we got to hit in just a few. But, Loeb, right before the break, I do want to ask you, just when you're talking about ways that the 49ers can lose, because that's to me how this should be framed. It isn't like I'm expecting Seattle to dictate the tone of this football game. If they're in the game, it's because the 49ers allow them to be. And I don't think that they will allow them to be because they haven't given us any reason, at least the last 2 weeks, to believe otherwise. But it is kind of a tough game in the sense it's a short week. Your body's a bit banged up. I know they got offensive linemen that might be in, might be out. But when it comes to the 49ers and dictating tempo, like when they're on script low, do you think it's something that another team can even get them off of a script? Or is it just simply, if the 49ers are playing 49ers football, I mean, it's kind of curtains.
Yeah, it kind of is. But like you said, when you're hurt offensively, you have two of your starting guards maybe not going to play. That hurts. Because now if guys jump off sides or if you get a holding call, now it's 1st down and 20 instead of 1st and 10 or 2nd down and 4, 2nd and 5. So you have some opportunities. If you're a team, you say, okay, let's force their bad guys to play bad. How do we do that? I'm not going to let them double team. How am I going to do that? I'm going to put a guy over the center and put a guy on the guard so now they can't double team my guard because I want to win and whip the offensive lineman's butt. I'm going to make him hold. I'm going to make him do something that's going to be a bonehead play. That's the kind of thing if you're Seattle. So when you're saying when this team is on script, yes, they're very hard to beat. So how do you combat that? You try to do things to frustrate them, to keep them off script, so keep them behind the chains. And if you do that, that's when the 49ers get in trouble, when they're playing from behind or when they're playing off script or when instead of being 2nd down and 4 or 5, it's 2nd and 20.
Hugh Millan is coming up next year on 95.7 The Game. This is the Kickoff Show, taking you up until Week 12, Thursday Night Football between the 49ers and the Seahawks. My name is Evan Giddings. That is Lorenzo Neal. Again, Hugh Millan will be up next. He's a former NFL quarterback, played nearly a decade in the league, former third-round pick out of the University of Washington, does work in the Seattle area with KJR, so I'm excited to talk to him. Also an hour away from John Dickinson, who's going to be joining us live from Lumen Field, setting the scene for what is an important game for the 49ers. 7-3, a chance to separate from the Seahawks in division, 2 games tonight, and of course setting up a big title weight fight next weekend in Philadelphia. The 49ers need this victory to keep the pace, and they needed to keep the Seahawks off their heels. We'll talk to Hugh Millan on the other side coming up on 95.7 The Game. You're listening to the Kickoff Show, sponsored by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. We're back after this.
Fill your game day cooler with the refreshing taste of Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea. Smooth, real brewed tea with a 5% kick of alcohol. Look for the bright yellow cans. Twisted Tea. Keep it twisted.
Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
There's Lorenzo Neal. And you know him well. Evan Giddings here with you on the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game, taking you up until 49ers and Seahawks and helping us so very kind with his time. Former quarterback Hugh Millan, and of course very familiar with the Seahawks, does work with KJR. Hugh, thank you so much for hopping on with us. We appreciate your time.
Evan and Lo, good to be with you. Happy Thanksgiving. Lo, it's been a minute.
It has, brother. How you been?
I'm doing great. Just trying to get my arms around the Seahawks team that seems to be stuck in mediocrity for many years after that great run they had about a decade ago.
Yeah.
No question. When saying that, when you think about this Seattle team, you saw last week a game that they had in the balance. Should have won that game. What has been the biggest disappointment? Is it quarterback, defensive play, collectively? Put your arms around this a little bit.
Yeah, well, first of all, you go Geno Smith. The first half of last year, he was really at the top of the statistics. He had quite a drop-off in the second half. And then for this year, I just tried to assemble some statistics that people often refer to. Passer rating, that ESPN QBR, which is another, that's supposed to be more sophisticated. It takes into account your opponent. The down, third downs are more important late in the game. Running quarterbacks are given credits that what you don't get in the rating. And then the PFF ranking, Pro Football Focus ranking, all 32 teams subscribe to Pro Football Focus. Geno Smith in rating, he's ranked the 18th quarterback. In QBR, he's 17th. In Pro Football Focus, he's ranked 16th. I mean, he's just sitting there right in the middle. And the area that he's struggled the most in right now, there are 32 quarterbacks who've had 40 or more pass attempts on third down. He's ranked 30th at just 30.6% of conversions. Third down has really been a problem for them. Now he has, the best thing I could say for him is that he has 3 game-winning drives to his name. Of course, the Rams wasn't one of them last weekend, but, in the absence of that, if they don't pull that off, those 3, Seattle's sitting there with just 3 wins. So it's been an enigma. Seahawks fans want to know which way Geno Smith's going.
Hugh Millan joining us here on 95.7 The Game, played NFL quarterback for nearly a decade. Of course, hails from the Seattle area, working with KJR now. Very familiar with the Seahawks before they take on the 49ers in just about an hour and 10 minutes away from, 2 hours and 10 minutes away from now. But Hugh, when we're talking about quarterbacks, and you mentioned Geno, one of the reasons why I think this game is so huge tonight for both teams, but specifically for Seattle, is you go back 3 weeks and, 3 points in Baltimore and then a close win against Washington and then the loss last week. This does appear to be kind of an inflection point for the Seahawks. So how do you expect them to come out tonight, especially considering you got San Francisco again in 2 weeks? You got a big game with Philly as well as Dallas on the schedule. It does feel like this is kind of a point where for the Seahawks, they need to show both themselves as well as the NFL who they are. And meanwhile, on the other side, it's the 49ers that are going to test them.
Undoubtedly. And first, you cheated at me out of a couple years. I got 11 in, but 11. I didn't have a pass attempt in all those years. So sometimes those websites get that jammed up. But look at here's the Seahawks. The hope for Seahawks fans. Since Pete Carroll's been there, they are number 1 in the NFL. They have the highest win percentage in primetime games, and certainly primetime games at home. So that has been a calling card for them. They find a way to get up. They play with great emotion, but they don't play tight. Obviously, I think every Seahawks fan is conceding the 49ers are just a better team. I think that there's concerns about Geno Smith and that elbow/tricep injury that he had. So is he on his game physically? Does he have the velocity to whip the ball in there? And then secondly, they don't have Kenneth Walker, the best running back. I mean, Zach Charbonnet is a nice pickup, but to my eye, he is not the running back Ken Walker is. So I think the 49ers catch a break that way. And then meanwhile, the offensive line has kind of struggled, and particularly as we talked about those numbers on third down. Lo, better than anybody. The game changes a little bit on third down. You bring in, those defensive tackles. You get lighter guys that are more pass rush specialists. They get into what's called the 3 technique, those wide 3 techniques. They don't worry about the A gaps. They just want to get good players on those offensive guards. And for Seattle, their interior three offensive linemen have really struggled. And really the only good offensive lineman consistently has been Charles Cross, and he'll have that matchup against Bosa. But all the other four have struggled, so I think that the challenge of protecting for Geno is going to be acute for Seattle.
No question. Love the answer. When you think about just the quarterback position, you played it, and this is not pertaining necessarily to Seattle, but just in general to the league. How do you judge, as a quarterback, how do you judge if the quarterback, a la Aaron Rodgers, Brady, how do you know if they have enough talent? What is it? How do we come to these conclusions that, oh, he just doesn't have the talent, the guy's great? You look at a guy at the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. What is it when you can say, no, this is the reason? Is it enough talent? Is it quarterback? How do you put your finger? Because I like the listeners would love to know that question as well.
Yeah, well, I wasn't a great player, but I backed up John Elway, Troy Aikman, and Dan Marino, and
pretty good players.
Guys. Yeah, and I've been a student of the quarterback position. I coached for 24 years. I'm 50 years watching this. In my opinion, if you think of like the pinnacle, the essence of playing quarterback is this: throw it to the right guy at the right time accurately. Everything else can help you do your job, but it's not central to the job. The first two of those, throw it to the right guy at the right time, involves deciphering the defense, reading the coverage, and here's the important part: playing the movie in your mind before it happens. If you take a snapshot, and I've studied Brock Purdy a lot, if you watch the end zone copy and you say, okay, as soon as his hands break, what does that mean? He's in the pocket. As soon as his hands separate, that means that on an almost neurological level, we can discern when he said, green light, I'm throwing this ball to Ayuk over the middle. If you take a snapshot from that same end zone copy and you say, what does the defense look? And now you take another snapshot of when the ball gets to Ayuk's hand, we'll just say 16 yards down the field, and compare all the defenders in the area, how much they've moved. They moved a lot. And so the guys that can play well, they play with, this is an important part, with anticipation. You cannot wait to see receivers open. If you see them open, they're covered, because that means you're too late. You have to anticipate them coming open. We used to study Dan Fouts' tape when I played for Ernie Zampese, the legendary offensive coordinator, and he would have this beautiful anticipation on those deep in routes that Kurt Warner also made famous. What I'm loving about Brock Purdy is this guy knows how to throw the ball with anticipation over the middle. He's fearless. He can throw it to the sideline because he doesn't have the big arm, but he makes up for it with the anticipation. And again, to my opinion, throw it to the right guy at the right time accurately, and that's what this kid is doing.
Hugh Millan joining us on 95.7 Game. This is the Kickoff Show. Lorenzo Neal, Evan Giddings, and Hugh played for 11 years in the NFL. I want to make sure I get that right this time.
I'm glad Hugh called you out on that. I'm glad. I hate when they do that. 14 years. They don't understand how hard it is. I don't care if you're playing backup, starting, third. You are absolutely right. Hugh, I got your back, brother. I got your back.
Well, I played with 93 Pro Bowl players in my career and 16 Hall of Famers, and none tougher and more of a leader than Lowe, man. I mean, our brief time together was good. It was good to watch that type of professionalism. I was just a scrub trying to keep one foot in the league, but was around great players like Lowe. So, it was good to see all that in action.
Well, speaking of toughness and work ethic, I know you can't see us because we're on Zoom and we're talking on the phone, but Lowe right now is in his gym right now. He's got 245 lined up. I mean, he's still rocking.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. Now, Lowe, hey, don't just press that stuff off your chest, man. I want to see you power cleaning that stuff. Keep the power.
Oh, that's where those knees start to hurt, baby. That's where those knees start to say, oh, wait just a minute. No, I'm still out there. I'm doing a little wrestling with the teams and trying to come out wrestle some of these high school cats. You know that. We got to stay active. If you stop, you lose it. So it's been great, man. Retirement. Watching ball.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I just turned 60 yesterday, the exact same day John Kennedy was shot. I was born, so I feel your pain. But no, it'll be interesting to see this matchup today, I'm wondering about Talanoa Hufanga, whether or not his loss is going to be a factor. I mean, now Fred Warner, he wrestled away the title. Bobby Wagner, he had the belt of the title of best inside linebacker. I think in all objectivity, Fred Warner's got it, but you're going to see a Hall of Famer, a first ballot Hall of Famer in Bobby Wagner tonight. Let's see if he revs up his game, knowing that Fred Warner is the new buck who's had that title for a few years now.
No, Hugh, I'm glad you brought up the defense because that's exactly where I wanted to go next. And Fred Warner is such a perfect place to start because he is, you were talking about Brock and the quarterback. He's the quarterback of that 49ers defense. But with the addition of Chase Young during the bye week and getting an extra pass rusher now opposite Bosa, the Buckeye brothers, so to speak, now getting after the quarterback, I mean, when you look at what the Seahawks offense has to game plan for, what do you think is the biggest threat or the biggest thing that they're concerned with? Is it number 97 or is it trying to figure out where Warner is at all times? How do you kind of do that?
Well, I think that what's got me as I look from afar is that John Lynch had no experience in front office. Here the 49ers, they go out on a limb. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But just, from watching the 49ers closely as a Seahawks analyst, this guy puts together the best roster in football. And that defense, it is so fun to watch. Like if I remove my NFC West and you guys are rivals, that 49er team, they have offensively, they've been the toughest team in football for 5 years. They got the best fullback in football. George Kittle, now I think Kelsey probably has deserved to be called the best tight end, but Kittle's the toughest. They're running, they're linebackers. They run like safeties. They're and hit like safeties. The safety. These guys are so fast and so physical, and that brand of football is fun to watch. But you mentioned inside. Where here you've got Young, Hargrove, Harpstead, Bosa. There's really you ordinarily you like to send the center towards the defense's best defensive line. Lowe knows this. Game plan for the best, and so you would ordinarily say, "Hey, we're sending Evan Brown, the Seahawks center, to Bosa," but now that's going to create all kinds of one-on-one opportunities elsewhere, and of course they got the best linebackers. We got to mention Greenlaw and all that. They're just a hard-hitting, well-disciplined tackling machine that can run and hit, and they play nasty. And so I think it's a tough matchup. But again, Seattle without Kenneth Walker, that's a big blow. Kenneth Walker, that dude is to my eye, a top 5 running back in this league. I don't care what the stats say. If he had a 3-yard gain, it's because the Seahawks offensive line gave him a 0-yard gain, and he somehow managed to get 3 yards. But he ain't playing tonight.
You're absolutely right. He runs very, very physical. If you're looking at right now, if I had you say, you know what, you're going to be the Seattle Seahawks DC and offensive coordinator, how do you attack the 49ers offense, and how would you attack the 49ers defense?
Well, the offense, I would say try and make, as far as the 49ers offense, I would try and make Purdy throw outside the numbers. I think that he's better over the middle of the field. That was something that you could also say about Garoppolo during his 49er time. Now, the numbers say that he's successful outside the numbers as well, but that would be a factor. And for you guys, this Witherspoon, Devin Witherspoon, this guy's a live wire now. They are just a lot faster team. He plays both left corner and nickel, so let's see how he matches up. Now, as for defending Kittle, I've broken this thing down. The Seattle Seahawks, you might see Jamal Adams. He's the only safety in the history of the NFL to be traded for 2 number ones. Only the 4th defender in NFL history traded for 2 number ones. Here's the problem that I have as a quarterback and as an analyst. When the Seahawks played cover 1, which is man-to-man, Lowe knows this, obviously, man-to-man with a free safety, the Seattle Seahawks, they had another Neal by the name of Ryan Neal, who was an $800,000 safety. He was the guy covering Kittle, and Jamal Adams and his $17 million was covering other guys or playing robber. They did not trust Jamal Adams to cover Kittle. In fact, in the entire time that Jamal Adams has been a safety for the Seahawks, he has covered George Kittle exactly twice in man-to-man situations. And in both situations, the 49er quarterback threw it to Kittle. One of them was a 9-yard gain. One was a 28-yard gain. So that's a big problem for me as a Seahawks analyst to say, we spent what? And we gave what contract to Jamal Adams? And you can't even have him cover George Kittle? So that's
real.
That's concerning to me. On the other side of the ball, I mean, I think if I'm the Seahawks, I'm concerned about that offensive line again, particularly on third down. What's happened is last week in that loss to the Rams, they on third downs, where's it in front of me? The Seahawks had 3 third down and 9, 11, 11, 11, 14, 15, and 22 yards. That's what happens when you can't run the football. And
Sure.
So the Geno Smith, the Seahawks just don't have the now. Their receiver core is, I think, it's a little bit of a sleeping giant because DK Metcalf is the all-time freak in the history of the Seattle Seahawks. He can run the route tree. He's got explosiveness. He is vastly underutilized. Tyler Lockett has been a star, and I think that Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be coming around. He's been a little bit underperforming. If there's going to be a problem for the 49ers, it's going to be that Seattle's going to get it revved up with a really, really talented receiver corps because that DK Metcalf is a load. The teams tend to roll coverages on him. We'll see how the 49ers handle him, but I think he's underutilized. Watch number 14 because, and I'll give this thought to you. You can look this up. DK Metcalf has the fastest 10-yard split of his 40 in the history of the Combine, faster than any other player at any other side, faster than Tyreek Hill, faster than anybody. And yet he's 6'3.5" and 225-ish and 40-inch vertical. He is a freak, and Seattle doesn't use him well enough.
Well, Hugh, I appreciate you hopping on with us, being able to break this game down 17 different ways, and I look forward to it because I do expect a hard-fought game tonight, and one of which hopefully is going to be, somewhere in the, I would say, in the 20s, potentially 30s, if Seattle's offense can show up like you're mentioning, featuring those weapons. But I appreciate you hopping on and enlightening us.
Good to be with you. Happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, too. That's Hugh Millan. Does work, you mentioned, in his analysis for the Seattle Seahawks, former 11-year quarterback in the NFL. Does work now with the KJR. See, this is the thing, Lo, and I appreciate you guys checking me, man.
I got piled on, E.
Oh, yeah, you had to.
Because you're my guy. E, you're my guy. Evan, you're my guy, so I have to jump on you because, it's interesting. 11 years and, play the backup role. It's hard. They don't just let you steal money. This is a guy that's been capable, played for 11 years, and you're smart. Backup guys are usually the smartest guys on the team because you need those guys to go in and play 4 or 5 games and hold it down. And he was one of those guys you look at that, get 11 years in, like Charlie Whitehorse, those guys, because they want guys that are capable of keeping their offense going, especially if one of these guys go down. So he did a great job of just breaking it down and talking about where Seattle is and where they're at in the middle of the pack and what they have to do in order to stay close to this Niner team tonight.
And also talking about the quarterback position because, we were talking about the demeanor of some of the greats most recently in Breeze and Wilson, but this is a guy that told us, he's backed up Troy Aikman. He's backed up John Elway. He has seen the highest of the highs as far as Marino, the quarterback room. So, and of course, has done it himself at a very high level, playing for the University of Washington, going toe-to-toe with those old Oklahoma teams. So, this is a guy that knows what he's talking about. And it was interesting hearing him talk about both Geno Smith and Brock Purdy because even though Geno Smith might not have as many weapons as Brock Purdy, he's a little banged up right now, he's been playing beneath the kind of expectation or bar that he set for himself last year. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy already had a really high bar that a lot of people might have been questioning, but he's taken it even to the next level. And so I'm curious what you see, Lo, as far as, I don't know if there is a next step, and I don't know if we're going to see it tonight, but the growth from Brock Purdy, because he's only 23 years old, this is a guy to me that has already checked so many boxes that a lot of people feel like it's nearly impossible for him to play better, and yet he goes out last week and goes 21 for 25, 330, and 3 scores.
I think the biggest thing in that interview when I was asked, I said, take away Seattle, take away the quarter. Just tell me about the quarterback position.
Yeah.
How do you know if it's talent or is it the quarterback? And what he said was spot on. He said, throw it to the right guy. But before that, he said, on time. See, because sometimes you try to throw it to the right guy, but it's not on time. And that's what brought Purdy. You and I, we had conversations, and I said, it's about trust. He understands when they throw those deep in routes and those dig routes, those 4 routes, the 6 routes, and those 8 routes where they're digging inside the deep 6 and it's coming. Brock Purdy throws it on time and ahead of schedule because he knows they are going to come across. And at times you see receivers just come out of nowhere and grab it out of the air because he throws it with anticipation. And that's what the quarterback that we just had on, he's talking about that. He's talking about the decision making, not just to throw it to the right guy, but on time. That's what Brock Purdy does well. That's what Brock Purdy does elite because he believes in the system. And they say, yes, he's a system quarterback. But a lot of system quarterbacks don't throw it on time to the right guy.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, you brought him up earlier, but the reason the Detroit Lions lost earlier today to the Green Bay Packers is because the ball was not getting there on time. It was not going where it was supposed to go. It was coming out of people's hands. It was, there was fumbles, there were interceptions. And the Green Bay Packers, as a result, went into Detroit and beat a team that was favored by 8.5 points. Like, that's what happens when, to your point, Lo, the anticipation isn't there in addition to the correct placement, the correct decision pre-snap. So I think that's where Brock Purdy just makes it look so easy. And granted, yes, he's got incredible weapons, but someone like Geno Smith, he might not have the same offensive line, he might not have the same running back, but talking to Hugh, Kenneth Walker, he's out tonight, but potentially a top 5 running back. He's got DK Metcalf, who's a physical freak. He's got Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba. He's got weapons on the outside, and it's not like he doesn't have guys that he can throw the ball to that can make plays. So, not to strip anything away from what Brock Purdy's done. And, and we've talked a bit about this as well. A system can only be as successful as the guy who's driving the car. And right now, it's like he's driving a Ferrari, and no one's going to catch him.
Right. And that's what he's doing elite. He understands that. And just like you alluded to, Geno Smith has Lockett. He has some weapons, DJ Metcalf. He talked about DJ Metcalf, 6'3", 240 pounds. Got the fastest 10 yards in the 40 than any guy in the combines, anybody during the history of the league at 6'4". So that tells you what? He can get off the line, he's going to be fast, and he can beat you to a spot. If that's the case, then Geno needs to say, I'm going to throw it on time. Not to the right guy, but throw it on time. And that's what Geno's not doing. Because when you're playing the 49ers, if I'm Geno Smith, it's very simple. I understand you're going to roll coverage to, this 6'4" giant because he's fast and Metcalf's fast, he's physical, he can win the jump ball. So I understand you're going to roll coverage there, and at times you're going to dump. So then I got to win right now. If the safety's coming down, then I'm double moving and I'm getting him over the top. He's acting like he's running a slant, and then it's a slant and go, and you throw the ball up and let him beat both those guys. If you're Geno Smith and you look at the other side to Lockett, no, they can't double both guys. Now you motion. If you're looking at Seattle, look for the motion across, saying, okay, I'm going to motion my guy across because I'm going to dictate whether they're playing man or zone, but I'm going to make them roll coverage, and they can't necessarily play man as effectively because I can't jam him off the ball because of the fact he's in motion with the run and start. So there's different ways that Seattle's going to have to combat this 49ers high-powered defense, and that's going to be predicated on how Geno's ability, like Brock said, how quick can he get the ball out of his hand and on time.
That's Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. This is the Kickoff Show, taking you up until the 49ers and the Seahawks, 520 NBC at Lumen Field in Seattle. We roll on with the Kickoff Show after this, and a reminder that this segment was brought to you by AC Transit.
Are you a mechanic with at least 4 years under your belt? AC Transit wants you to join the crew. Help us drive the East Bay. No diesel experience? No problem. Paid training is provided. New mechanics are eligible for a $2,000 bonus. Applying today at actransit.org.
'Twas almost the holiday.
Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
Lorenzo Neal and Evan Giddings with you, taking you up until kickoff between the Niners and the Seahawks. Lo, you got the victory cigar lit already before the game? What's going on over there?
All right, hey, you know what? If you can eat turkey sandwiches and make me jealous over there, and I'm over here getting 225 instead of 25, you back here eating turkey and drinking milk and gravy. You get it in. You got a lot to be thankful for. I got this victory cigar in the middle of a workout, getting it done. I see you looking pretty in the face, Evan, as always, and slim in the waist. Tell me, my brother, what are you thankful for this Thanksgiving?
Well, number one, I'm thankful to be on the air with you right now because we've had a chance to, throughout the season, get to know each other more. As you know, I grew up a Chargers fan, so I got to see you both on the field, now getting to work with you. I'm absolutely thankful for that. I'm thankful for the 95.7 The Game family. I'm thankful for all the hosts that we get to work with, all the great producers behind the scenes, including Mark Granda, who you can catch on Overtime after the final whistle today.
There we go.
Along with Sterling Bennett. I'm grateful for everyone upstairs that handles all the big decisions above our heads, and I'm grateful for my family, man. I'm going to get a chance to go watch some football with them afterwards, and I got a lot to be grateful for. I got a lot to be thankful for.
You know what, Evan? Well said, man. I know I give you a hard time, brother. You're an awesome guy, and man, people don't say it enough. We're grateful for one another, and just thank you for being you, and thank you for allowing me to be who I am on the show. We get to have some great, back and forth banter, and it's all in good gesture. And I want to ask you, I know as I digress and kind of get back into football, what were you most impressed with Green Bay today when you watched Green Bay, NFC opponent, and also Detroit Lions, who are a team that was above the Niners? What did you see? What made that game unique? And compare and contrast when you think about the Niners tonight in Seattle.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, and I'm glad, because to me, when I think about great play callers, Kyle Shanahan's obviously at the top of the list. Sean McVay is up there for the Los Angeles Rams. But there's a guy, Matt LaFleur, who has cut his teeth with both of those two names that I just mentioned. And I don't think he's necessarily gotten a lot of credit for his offensive acumen, just because when he came into the league, he was working with Aaron Rodgers. He was working with a future Hall of Famer. But now getting to see what that offense can do with a quarterback who has learned under Rodgers, Jordan Love, who's cut his teeth as a backup, now is a chance to start. To me, I was impressed by, and I have been impressed the last couple of weeks by the Packers and the play calling combined with what the quarterback is doing, because early in the year, Love was making a lot of first-year starting mistakes, and now you're starting to see it being pieced together to the point where they can go into a hostile environment like Detroit. And yeah, they got some help from turnovers. They capitalized early, but Jordan Love in a game that, if you turn the ball over, you start to give that Lions team some momentum, you put yourself in a dangerous spot. I like the way that they handled that game offensively, playing from ahead and not giving it up.
No question. When you think about where Seattle is, when you think about are they a rebuilding team? Because you look at Green Bay. Would you say Green Bay's more than rebuilding, or would you look at Seattle and say which of these two teams to you are rebuilding?
That's a great question. I think to me, Seattle is closer to the win now team, just because I think they invested heavily into positions that generally tell you that they're ready to win. Like, they got a head coach who can do it. They got a quarterback that they believe in. They got some weapons. And to me, not that Green Bay is in a rebuilding mode, but they're in a kind of recalibration state to where this season, if they can make some noise down the stretch, sneak into the playoffs, that's going to be a great building block for them. Whereas I think Seattle had that building block last year, and now they're trying to move forward.
I'm with you. And the reason why I'm asking you that, Evan, because when you think about Green Bay, you think about it, this is one of the youngest teams in the National Football League.
Yeah.
So you have put a lot of draft capital. You trade, you don't have Aaron Rodgers, so you have a young team. If you think about Green Bay and where they're at as a team in the NFC, if they get it right on Jordan Love, the quarterback position, since the league itself puts so much pressure or so much invested in the quarterback position, if you look at Green Bay and you think about their roster, they're one of the youngest teams in the NFL. So I think this is a total rebuilding type of team, not kind of rebuilding, recalibrating, but also saying that, hey, we got some pieces that we're building in the future, but building the right way. Because there's some teams out there that are rebuilding, but they don't look like they're rebuilding in the right way. They don't seem like they're building that's getting ready to turn into success. When you look at Green Bay and what LaFleur is doing, and the guy he let leave the building, Aaron Rodgers, and the way this team is coming into his own, and the teams that they're beating, a la the LA Chargers last week, today Detroit Lions, this team, to me, showing that they're poised for the next couple of years. If they continue this trajectory, they're going to be a team to reckon with.
Yeah, they are moving in the right direction. This is the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. My name is Evan Giddings. That's Lorenzo Neal. And talking about, situations and kind of momentum, the upward movement that we're seeing right now from the Green Bay Packers. To me, you're talking about maybe the youngest team in football. And the Niners are not that. They are, as far as average age is concerned, in a top 10 group. They're a veteran-laden, experienced group. But to me, one thing that they do have in common is a consistency in the front office as well as at the head coaching position. And that, to me, where I don't know if you feel the same, Lo, but that, to me, is where I don't know how quickly windows open and close, because I feel like they consistently stay open so long as you have consistently educated and smart decision makers replenishing the talent pool, being able to pair the right people together, and then having a head coach in Green Bay, it's LaFleur, and of course in San Francisco, it's Kyle Shanahan, having those guys that can galvanize a team, that can get them on the right page. So for me, the relationship between San Francisco and Green Bay is not necessarily the age or the experience, but it's the guys in the front office, ownership from the top down to the bottom. They are one of the most consistent organizations, and that to me is why I like Green Bay moving forward. And I also think that San Francisco is not necessarily nearing a closing window as far as contention, even though they got a lot of big contracts.
I'm with you there, because when you look at the San Francisco 49ers, the reason why I kind of digress into Green Bay, I think the most common denominator when you think about is the quarterback position. See, yes, Love has to do more for Green Bay because they don't necessarily have the defense that the Niners have, but they're up and coming. They don't have that, so I think Love has to try to create and do a little bit more for Green Bay. But if you think about what Purdy is and how Kyle Shanahan's offense is and the offensive weapons that he has, I think if this is the right guy, which we all believe that Purdy is the right guy, I think they're open for business because I think this offense can continue to get better. I think this offense, in my opinion, I know everyone talks about this defense. I'm on the side that I think this offense can be an offense that scores 28 points, at least 24 every single week. I don't think this offense, if it's healthy, I don't think you can hold them to 24 points or less. I think that 24 is the bare minimum this offense should be able to score. With the weapons you have with Ayuk and Debo, those are two dynamic. One is a Army Swiss knife, and Ayuk is one of the best pass route runners in this league. I'm not saying he's the best receiver, but he's a great pass runner and unbelievable. And then if you think about Kittle, what he is as a tight end, top 2 or 3 tight ends in the league, then when you think about what you have in McCaffrey as a Swiss Army knife, so when you think about this team, and even if they do have to move on from certain people because of the salary cap, this offense, to me, for the next couple of years, if you continue to grow and develop, I think the sky's the limit, and it's all going to be predicated on how Purdy continues to develop and how effective he continues to be in this system by not throwing it to the right guy, but throwing it ahead of time.
No, I think that's a great point, Lo, because in 2019, when the 49ers made their run to the Super Bowl, even though they had an offense that put up points, I think people associated them with their defense. They were a top 2 unit. They were defensive-minded, and really throughout the entire Jimmy Garoppolo saga, that was a defense-first football team. I think you're right that we're starting to see them shift. Not that the defense isn't good, and not that the defense can't play damn well like it has the last 2 weeks, but they are becoming more offensive-associated, offensive-minded. And it is really because of the quarterback, because he's elevated them into what the YouTube chat is chiming in on for a Dublin Marge right here, 30 for Purdy, or Purdy for 30. Like, he's throwing up those 30-point games, and it seems like it's the floor as opposed to the ceiling.
No question. And to your point, if you think about this team last several years when it was predicated on defense said, offense, just get us 21. If we get there, we win because now the defense doesn't have to play that intense and that tight. But if you think about where they're at now, this was a team, you would go to a game, and you know this, E, if you said the 49ers were only going to have 90 to 100, only between 100 to 90 yards rushing, you said it is an automatic loss. It was, they have to have 130 when the Niners were winning football games in 19, when you talked about in 2019, 18, when they started going on the run, they would run in the ball 40, 50 times a game, averaging between 120 to 200 yards rushing. When does that happen? Name me a time that's happened this year. This team is no longer the same 49ers team because of Purdy.
Well, and that's why you look up at the plus 120-point differential and near there, and you can't do that unless you have both an elite offense and an elite defense. And the 49ers, when they have their way, when they get a lead early, when Brock Purdy goes down, whether it's an opening or second drive and can score, this is a team that is very difficult to come from behind against. Now, we haven't yet seen, Lo, and this is maybe what gives some people pause when we're talking about putting the 49ers into the top of the top conversations. There are some concerns about whether or not this team can come back, or if they're in a dogfight in the fourth quarter or in the second half of games late. Can they dig themselves out of the mud? We haven't seen that yet, but that doesn't detract from the 7 games and the 7 wins in which we've seen, yes, they've played with a script, but that's because if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you can go out and score early and dictate the tone, you can get that defense to pin their ears back, then why not try and play to that script every single game? And if so happen, for example, tonight in Seattle, they fall from behind, then that's just another test. It doesn't mean that they can't pass it, but if what is working for you offensively has been throwing up huge numbers, I'm sorry. Maybe I just don't want to see them in a tight game because I think that they can blow out an opponent on any given Sunday or any given Thursday like tonight.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the biggest thing to the Niners, if you said, hey, what concerns you? If you said, Lorenzo, what is the biggest concern? And look, I understand defense, wasn't playing well a couple weeks ago. But the biggest concern to me is the consistency up front. Mm-hmm. If this offensive line, if you had a dominant offensive line, I don't think you lose a game. I think that more so, I know your defense can play well, but your defense can be middle of the road. If this offensive line, because you're talking about the ability to come back, if Purdy has time and you don't rush him out of the pocket and they can set a new line of scrimmage and they don't let the pocket collapse in his face where he can see, because you got to stone guys, for guys that are shorter guys in the pocket, they got to get a deeper drop. Also, the offensive line have to sit heavy because you don't want to let those guys push back and then bat down balls because they got to throw with the arch. So if the offensive line can get solid and get healthy and become more dominant, that's me. That is the Super Bowl, in my opinion, because you're talking about can they come from behind? We don't know, because sometimes we've seen the line break down and get in the sack and get Purdy getting flustered, get him off his point, get him off his spot. If this offensive line can hold true and hold court and continue to get better, that's when I think this 49er team is unbeatable.
I'm with you. And we're also going to find out who the inactives are for tonight in just a couple of minutes. Supposed to be coming out before this Week 12 matchup between the 49ers and the Seahawks. 5:20 kick from Lumen Field in Seattle. 49ers 7-3. Seahawks are 6-4. But potentially some good news, Lo, because it looked like left guard Aaron Banks, who, as you mentioned, had the turf toe, was out for 2 games, did run out onto the field pregame. So it looks like he's going to at least pregame give it a go. Not sure if he'll play, but meanwhile, on the opposite guard position, Spencer Burford might not be there. So we'll see John Feliciano up front, or pardon me, Corey Luciano, who was activated earlier in this game. John Feliciano might start at that right guard spot. So they might get a little bit healthier at one guard position, but they might be down a guard at another position. So again, it comes down to Brock Purdy, who has not really been phased all that much despite having a pass protection that's ranked in the bottom 5 in the NFL. This is an offensive line that, despite some struggles, Brock Purdy's been able to overcome it.
Yeah, he has. He's overcome it because of the fact that his ability to get rid of the ball. And he lets the ball out of his hand less than 3 seconds. When he's pushing the ball out of his hand and throwing it to the spot and throwing guys open, he's pretty darn well. And so that's what you have to do when your offensive line is not necessarily as stout as you like it to be. Then it's got to be by design. It's got to say, get the quarterback to get the ball out of his hand quick. Throw the balls to the perimeter. Get the ball out. Let it release. And that's what they have to continue to do, especially when you're trying to protect your quarterback, is let him get the ball out of his hands fast.
That's Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. We're going to be chatting with John Dickinson in just about 10 minutes. He's going to be joining us live from Lumen Field. Also, a big thank you to our guest earlier, Hugh Millan, who is kind enough to join us and discuss from a Seahawks perspective kind of how this game falls in line with what they and their season wants to become. Meanwhile, one thing, Lo, I have noticed about the offense, and not that it's related to the O-line particularly, but the 49ers overall, if you look at their red zone efficiency, they're in the top 10 in the NFL, but you look at what they've done in the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's not exactly the efficiency you'd like to see. 5 of 13 of their last red zone trips they've converted into touchdowns. So even though overall the offense has looked fine inside the 20s, in a game in which you're on the road, you like to capitalize early getting in the red zone and getting those touchdowns. Have you seen something recently that would give you pause about that, or do you think it's just kind of a statistical anomaly? Because to their credit, even though maybe they haven't been as efficient red zone-wise recently, they've still thrown up 34 points against Jacksonville and 27 against Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I think it's an anomaly, but I think you do have to be more physical down on the red zone. I think at times you got to take McCaffrey out and you got to say, let's bring in the big bruiser, 28, let him get downhill, let him spring some necks, and let's loosen some guys up. I think that you do. I think that you have a team that can play a lot more physical. And I think that's no slight on McCaffrey, because I think that he's one of the best, if not the best running back in the league, as far as his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield and what he brings to the game. But at times you got to just say, look, let's line up and let's go downhill. Let's spring some necks. Let's get physical. Let's beat some guys up. And then you bring in McCaffrey and let him do what he does. I think sometimes in the red zone, you do have to get more physical. You do have to get downright dirty. You have to continue to keep teams off balance in this red zone. But yeah, I think that they're going to get more efficient. I think that you look at Kyle Shanahan, he's a guy that understands those stats and those numbers just like you do. Every Thursday, you go over red zone offense. And I remember playing in the league that was like, hey, guys, this is what we've done in the red zone. This is what teams are giving us red zone. We got to overcome this. So let me tell you right now, E, without a doubt, the 49ers understand that, and they're working on that. They know that they have fell off drastically in the red zone. So look for Kyle Shanahan to fix the problem.
And speaking of red zone inefficiency, the Seattle Seahawks overall this year have not been very good in the red zone. Hugh Millan illustrated that for us earlier. Also talked about the inability to convert on third down. And this is where I do think that, as much as I believe in the 49ers offense, I do think this is a game for the defense to potentially dominate. As far as the pass rush, getting to Geno Smith, like we talked about, making him feel uncomfortable early. They're down their starting running back. And so right now, Zach Charbonnet is going to be the starting RB1 for the Seattle Seahawks. If this is a defensive line with Chase Young that looks closer to the defensive line that we thought that they could be at the beginning of the year, I don't see how the Seahawks, number one, can establish the run. And to me, that doesn't really give Geno Smith much on the back end to do much through the passing game. And it's going to be him having to force the ball down the field. I know Millan was talking about how he wants to see Brock Purdy. He wants to see the Seahawks force Brock Purdy outside the numbers. I also think that conversely, Geno Smith is a guy that you're going to have to make beat you outside the numbers, because unless this offensive line it just plays kind of out of the ordinary and gives him miraculously some time, I think he is going to have to put the ball into some dangerous spots against a defense that can take advantage of it.
Oh, no question, E. You're absolutely right. And to your point, and when you say, hey, look, here's an offensive line, when you talk about Seattle's offensive line, they have struggled and they have to play better offense, and especially when you guys are playing against the 49ers, because the 49ers, what they do, they have that NASCAR, they can bring four guys, and now you're talking about that you can put a guy over the guard, you can put a guy over the center, and now you can't turn protection. So you're going to create those one-on-one blocks. And these guys are going to line up a shade. They're not lining up head up. The Niners have athletic, fast defensive guys. So you don't put them head up, but you have them take a shade. So now you're giving them a soft edge to take on a half a man. Look for the Niners to be in the backfield often, all night long.
And one thing that can help keep the Seahawks out of the backfield is going to be Aaron Banks, because he is officially active for this game. Off of the 2-game hiatus with the turf toe, he is back in. Unfortunately for the 49ers, Spencer Burford, opposite guard, is going to be inactive for this game, along with a couple others. But for the 49ers, close to as healthy as they can be in the offensive line. We'll see if Jair Brown can step up on the back end, because this is really the first game we have seen the 49ers defense and secondary without their all-pro safety in Talanoa Hufanga. I'm not sure if it makes for a necessarily easy job for Geno Smith, because I think Jair Brown, their highest pick in the draft this season out of the third round, is a serviceable safety. But you do lose some physicality on the back end, because, as you know, Hufanga could come in and lay the wood on anyone.
Yeah, you do. You lose not just a guy that can hit the pit hard and lay the wood, but you use a guy who's a ball hawk, who knows where the ball is going to be, and he takes chances. That's what I liked about Fontenot. When you think about what he would do, he would sit at that 15 to 16 yards, and he would drive on stuff, because he understood the defensive line was going to put pressure on guys, and sometimes at times he would get beat, but he understands. So he's going to be around the ball. He knows where the ball should go as an offensive type of perspective, because if he's put so much time in and studying. So that's what I think that you lose. You use that ball hawk. This guy's always around the ball. Even if guys are catching it, he's always there, because he has that great ability to know where the quarterback wants to go with the ball. So I think that is going to be a huge loss.
And also officially, Geno Smith is active for this game. Had a tricep injury, was questionable. Did believe he was going to play beforehand, but he is officially active. On the Seahawks side, Frank Clark, along with Kenneth Murray, their running back, is inactive. And so that is going to be a loss for the Seattle Seahawks. This is the Kickoff Show, sponsored by Habas Law. Evan Giddings along with Lorenzo Neal. A reminder that Habas Law, if you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. John Dickinson is going to join us on the other side in just a couple of minutes. He is live at Lumen Field. He's going to get us set. Also, perhaps a couple of other updates. Kenneth Walker, the third part of me, he is out for this game for the Seattle Seahawks, so Zach Charbonnet is going to be their starting running back. How can the 49ers take advantage of a compromised offense? How can Seattle potentially, as we were talking about, take advantage of a slightly compromised 49ers defense? We'll get into that on the other side. One more hour left before kickoff. 49ers and Seahawks, Week 12, Thursday night, Thanksgiving action. Evan Giddings alongside Lorenzo Neal continue on the Kickoff Show after this on 95.7 The Game.
Tease the season at the Golf Mart by Worldwide Golf for holiday specials this year. Featuring the tailor-made Stilt 2 Carbon Woods that combine speed and forgiveness to unlock forgiveness. Now up to $100 off. And from Bushnell, the new tour.
Always live on the free Odyssey app. Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
This is the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. That is Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. Joined now by John Dickinson from Lumen Field here on a Thursday. Happy Thanksgiving, JD. Appreciate you hopping on with us before another rivalry game between these two teams.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. Thanks for having me. Great to be on. Happy Thanksgiving to the both of you. And it should be a showdown, NFC West. If the Niners can get this one, they're obviously going to be in pretty good shape as far as the division goes for the remainder of the season. And the Lions got beat earlier today, so an opportunity to move up in the overall NFC standings as well, matching them with a third loss if they can get the win here tonight.
Well, set the tone for us, Sir JD. How is the crowd? I know the 12th man's always very big in Seattle. What does this game mean to the Seattle Seahawks? We know what it means to the Niners. What about them?
Yeah, it means everything. And look, they've played close games and or have gotten beat for the most part at home. They haven't been as home dominant as we're used to seeing the Seattle Seahawks be. And, they slipped up. They had every opportunity for this game to be a game where both teams came in at 7-3, but they slipped up against the Rams in L.A. over the weekend and lost to the Rams for the second time this season. Also lost to them in the opener, and that's the difference in the division to this point. Those two losses for Seattle against L.A., the 49ers held serve, beat the Rams back in week 2, and I think the Seahawks also come into this thing banged up. Geno Smith is active. Kenneth Walker is out for this one. So the 49ers took the bye, got healthier, and, have come out with two real good performances to get back on track after the 3-game losing streak. So if there is such a thing as momentum, I think it's all on the 49ers side, and they even have the confidence, and Brock Purdy has the confidence to know that he can win here. Like, that's not even a thing because he did it last year in December on a short week with the rib injury, one of those great early performances, his second start with the 49ers in that game back in December. And the 49ers were able to get the job done and win here at Lumen Field. So I think there's a confidence that they can do it again. And Seattle, again, as I mentioned, not quite as invincible as they've been through the years here either.
95.7 The Game 49ers and Warriors reporter John Dickinson joining us live from Seattle before the 49ers take on the Seahawks at 5:20. You mentioned kind of that aura of Seattle and maybe not being as prevalent in a dangerous way to the 49ers as it has been in years past. Is that the way that you kind of see this? And is it because Brock Purdy slayed the dragon, as you mentioned, really early in his career? I think it was his first road start. He had the short week, so he's done it on a Thursday. Do you think that with the 49ers having beaten the Seahawks, maybe not 3 times in a row at Seattle, but 3 times in a row dating back to last season, do you think that there is less kind of juice surrounding how hostile of a situation it is, that the 49ers aren't necessarily invading enemy territory, but they're more trying to defend what they believe is a place they've had success recently?
Yeah, I think it's still hostile, and the 49ers have still won here twice in the last, 12 years. So it's they did get the win in 2019, different team to take the 1 seed in that showdown in Week 17, and won here last year to clinch the division with a little bit under a month to play. But I think as far as this matchup goes, a lot of that's history. This matchup with the Geno Smith Seahawks, as well as Geno has played for Seattle after they made the decision to move on from Russell Wilson and send him to Denver. This version of the Seahawks versus this version of the 49ers these last 2 years, and the 3 games last year with the game in the playoffs that turned into a blowout in favor of the 49ers, I think this team thinks that they match up really well with the Seahawks. I think the Niners think this isn't the Harbaugh era. This isn't the Marshawn Lynch, Russell Wilson era where Seattle got the better of the bigger games between these two. I think the Niners feel like, while still a formidable opponent, still the clear-cut number 2 in the division, along with San Francisco, that they're confident that they can win enough of the big matchups. And look, I look at this one, Lo, as the Niners are the healthier team right now. I think the Niners are playing better football, and I think the Niners have the confidence that they know they can win here. So some of the mystique is, it's still going to be a tough game, and you're still going to have to come in, play buttoned up, get off to a good start, try to make Seattle play from behind. I think in this place, not let the 12s really get going and make an impact on the game. To me, the way that the crowd has an impact is if Seattle gets off to a lead, and then the 49ers have to play catch-up, which has not been San Francisco's strong suit really in any game this year where they've gotten behind by too much. So I think that's the game plan for Seattle is fast start, but to counter that for the 49ers, the game plan is, I think it's similar. It's get off to a lead and just control the action, keep the crowd quiet. The 2 games that the 49ers have won here since 2019, they've been able to do that.
JD, no doubt that the 49ers have more talent. It seems like it is a better team on paper. So, yes, I'm in the same church, same pew with you there. If you're Seattle, how do you combat the Niners' offense and their defense? And how would Seattle, if you were going to play in Seattle role, how do they play spoiler? What is the key for them?
I mean, to me, it starts with being able to slow down Christian McCaffrey. I mean, everything for the 49ers it starts with McCaffrey. And as much as Brock Purdy has checked all the boxes, I still think teams in the pick your poison situation would rather have Brock Purdy be the player that has to attempt to beat them than allowing the 49er running game, which has struggled. To me, that's the template. You may still get beat, but your best chance if you're a 49ers opponent is to try and slow down McCaffrey and to try and make Purdy have to throw the ball a lot and try to put pressure on. And again, I think their biggest asset, if you will, is the crowd. But the crowd's only truly in the game if Seattle can get off to a lead and make them play from behind. But beyond that, I don't know really what Seattle does have up their sleeve as far as a matchup here, a matchup there, really low. And maybe you disagree with me. I'm trying to find as I look at the different matchups. Again, maybe the wide receivers for Seattle, but typically the Niners have been in on Geno Smith where he's had to get rid of the ball quickly, and there haven't been those big play opportunities in these matchups for Seattle to try and throw the ball down the field and really work against San Francisco's defensive backfield, which I think can have issues against, a DK Metcalf, against a Tyler Lockett. And so with Walker out, I think they may struggle to run it a little bit, even though the 49ers run defense has been somewhat maligned. You still look up at the end of the week, and the 49ers have allowed the fewest points in the NFL, and I think the second best average among points in the NFL for defenses. So I'm trying to find a matchup that Seattle can exploit. I don't know that there necessarily is one for Seattle defensively against the 49ers offense, other than trying to sell out and stop the run and make Brock Purdy beat you. But Brock Purdy will beat you for the most part when other teams have tried to do that, unless you can make them play from behind.
Sure. JD, tell me the significant and how big of a loss is your father out with the ACL? What does he mean, and how big of a loss is that for the Niners secondary?
I think it's a huge loss. I think Hufanga had been developing into a leader among that group. Fred Warner is the captain of the defense and the leader, and Nick Bosa does his thing, and I think they feel like, adding Chase Young is another premium talent that they've thrown into the mix there. But I think among the group, Charvarius Ward at corner isn't really a leader. I know Gibson at the other safety spot can be a leader at times, but I think Hufanga had been the captain of the defensive backfield for the 49ers. And so that type of leadership and connectivity is something that I look for with Jair Brown. And look, Jair Brown is somebody that, he has been spoken of as if, even as a young player, even as a rookie, somebody that seems to have those traits to where 2, 3, 4 years from now, the way his teammates speak of him, we may be talking about him as one of the bona fide leaders on a defense or on a football team, because he just has that personality type, even though he hasn't really established it yet because he hasn't had the opportunity. So I think all eyes really are on 27 for the 49ers to see how he's tested. He did get beat down the seam early when he came into the game against Tampa Bay, but then made a couple of huge plays. The one against Mike Evans and the PBU, and obviously the interception in the end zone. So he does tend to have a nose for the ball, but I also think him being tested in coverage and tested in the seam and down the seam and tested over the top is an area where I want to see how he holds up.
This is the Kickoff Show with Lorenzo Neal and Evan Giddings, joined by John Dickinson, live from Lumen Field up in Seattle before the 49ers take on the Seahawks. And, JD, when we're discussing, I guess pretty much which poison Seattle wants to pick as far as the 49ers offense is concerned, when you look at the four big playmakers, McCaffrey, Kittle, Ayuk, and Debo. I know Kittle had the biggest game last year in this kind of similar spot, 2 touchdowns on Thursday night. Do you think it's another big game for 85? Or if you had to, I guess, kind of decide on which one you think is going to pop. Last week it was Ayuk. Maybe it's McCaffrey. Do you think it is 23 and everyone else, or do you see a big game for someone else tonight?
Yeah, I think if I had to pick two, I would. I think this kind of feels like a Debo game tonight to me, and he's had some games against Seattle. I feel like Debo is somebody that they try to mix it up with the short passes, the run, mix him into the running game a little bit more. I think he becomes one of the more trusted 49ers in these bigger games. And to me, it becomes about who Kyle Shanahan truly trusts. And I think that really is 23 and 19. And so if McCaffrey's the guy that can't get it rolling, and he always gets his numbers, but if he can't, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a game where Debo catches a couple of short ones for big gains, or catches a little short, pass that is really a run and takes it for a touchdown. Like Debo would probably be my pick to click for the 49ers among the others if we're factoring McCaffrey out of the equation. And then, if you said pick another one, I'd probably Debo and Kittle over maybe Ayuk and McCaffrey. But again, McCaffrey's just so tough to stop. Although teams have had a little bit more success stopping them in the running game of late compared to earlier on. But that's just set the table these last few weeks for Brock Purdy to have his way with Tampa Bay and with Jacksonville.
I'm right there with you, JD.
Yeah, JD, you just alluded to that, kind of slowed him down the last couple of weeks, and that's McCaffrey. And how much is that to do with the inconsistency of the offensive line of guys being injured and out, Burford's toe, and the different things? What type of play do you think we can get from those guys up front, the horses?
Yeah, I think they definitely need to be better and need to be better on the interior. Aaron Banks is back, so Aaron Banks is going to start at left guard. But Burford, as you mentioned, was out, so that means John Feliciano, who had been playing left guard for Banks, will shift over and play right guard. And I think, that was a move that Kyle Shanahan had discussed potentially making anyway, even if everybody had been healthy for Burford, because Feliciano's been somebody that's impressed them in some of the practice work, and then they've liked him when he's gotten in and had opportunities for Banks. So I'm interested to see a little bit of a new look line with 4 of the 5 starters in play. And now you have Feliciano getting a shot at right guard with Banks back in there. And does that maybe open things up a little bit more than they have been lately? Because to me, it's a tell when a coach like Kyle Shanahan says, hey, I was maybe thinking about rotating him in anyway, that maybe he wasn't, feeling Burford's play. And I know he's been the one among all of the 49er offensive linemen that I think has been the most maligned at different points this season.
Finally for you, JD, I saw just on Twitter kind of perusing a little bit, a lot of red, it appears, out there. Is that the case?
Yeah, a lot of red. A lot of people made the trip. I was down on the field here before I came up to jump on with you guys, and yeah, they were flooding the 49er sideline and the corner where the 49ers come out of the tunnel, and yeah, a lot of red. I would say as much, and there was a lot of red here last year. It's funny that 2019 it felt as hostile, and I covered that game up here in Week 17. To me, that felt like old Seattle, as hostile as it could be. It felt last year like the Niner fans had enough of an impact on the Thursday night game to where it was muted. And the one thing the Niners have done in both of those games is they've gotten out the leads, which I think makes them even more muted. And I got the impression last year that because there were enough Niner fans in the building, that the Seattle fans kind of knew that the Niners are the better team. And I think they kind of, sometimes you go to those games. Well, I'm sure you've played in some games, man, where you've been at home and you guys get down and the crowd knows, right? Like you can kind of feel that aura in the crowd where the crowd doesn't necessarily believe in you guys on that day, right? And you got to kind of play through it. And that's a startling thing to say up here, but I kind of felt like that in the game here last year a little bit.
JD, why you got to always throw it on my face, man? Of course I know what that's like. I thought I was your guy. JD, you know what? In closing, we got to let you.
Both ways. Well, you knew it both ways.
I know, JD.
You knew it when you hit somebody and LT took it into the end zone and the place got real quiet, right? They're like, uh-oh, is he going for 200 today? Or what? Like, what's happening?
Absolutely. We used to do that all the time with the Raiders. I'm not going to start on that because I know we got some Raider listeners.
That's actually true. That's a good point. And then LT would throw for one, and then you'd run a little halfback option for him, right? And he'd throw for one, and then he'd catch one.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. You remember those good days.
I remember that game.
What about tell us, in closing, what are you thankful for? Those Thanksgiving, are you getting any turkey? Did you get any turkey? And what are some of the things that you're thankful for on this football Thursday?
Oh, I'm thankful for the opportunity, one, to be here just because I'm, that's present in the moment, be here covering this game for the game and for you guys and my parents in Sacramento who are having a wonderful nice dinner tonight. I'm going to get to see moms and pops on Saturday, and so that'll be good. And really looking forward to that. Yeah, they got a nice spread here. Nice full-blown turkey dinner with the stuffing and the mashed potatoes and all the trimmings. I'm going to grab that here probably about 4:45, 4:50 as we get closer to kickoff. I'm going to head back down to the field, try and get some video going, but yeah, no, I'm just thankful to be alive, number one, and thankful to have an opportunity to be covering football and covering the Warriors and talking to you guys and man, it's just it's just great. Everything's gravy, man. And you do have to take the time to think about that today. There's no doubt. Special times, and we're all very, very blessed.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, hey, we're thankful for you, JD, and appreciate you taking some time out. I know it's busy over there. And hope you enjoyed the game tonight. I hope the Niners can walk away with a win.
Yeah, I like the Niners tonight. I know Larry usually asks me to give a prediction. I feel 27-17, 27-20, but the 49ers are in control of this one. We'll see. I haven't seen a couple of these road losses really coming when they have. Cleveland and Minnesota, those were kind of hard to see coming. But I feel like the Niners have Seattle's number a little bit, and the Niners are playing well, and the Niners are the healthier team coming into this one.
I'm right there with you. Thank you, JD. Appreciate it, man.
All right, you got it, guys.
That's John Dickinson, 49ers Warriors reporter for 95.7 The Game. And, I mean, look, I'm with him there. As to take the words out of your mouth, Lo, same church, same pew. Like, I think that this is a game that the 49ers should pretty much have their hands on, and they should be able to control.
Yeah, they really should. And it starts up front. And that's why, I mentioned how they feel up front. You're talking about the different guys, the offensive line. We see in the guard position, the injuries, Trent's back now. And watching these guys continue to get better. And I think that's where this game is won and lost in, is the trenches. And you're playing against a Seattle team that if you can slow them down and give Purdy time, and now you make this team two-dimensional where the Niners can run and pass with what McCaffrey brings to the game and the run game as well as the pass game, I think that this is going to be total domination. If you can do that, that's total domination. And with Seattle, it's very simple. Like you alluded to, those guys up front, they should not be able to block the four the Niners have. The Niners can come in and bring guys and create that mismatch. And where are you going to slide your protection? Now, who are you going to double? You're going to create some lot of one-on-one matchups with these defensive fronts. So that's why, to me, this game, we talk about all McCaffrey and all these other guys that we're talking about, the Debo and Ayuk and Kittle, of course. To me, it's about the guys on the trenches. It's about the guys. Of course, we know who Nicky Bosa is. Of course, we know Chase, but it's the other guys in the middle. It's Hargrave, with Armstead. I think you're going to see a lot of one-on-one blocks, and Armstead's been getting a lot of one-on-ones. You've seen the last couple of weeks he's picked up his game because you brought in other guys. Gravedigger's picked up his game because they see, hey, everyone's talking about Chase and they talk about Nick Bosa. These other two guys and the other two have now stepped up their game. So I think this is one of those trench games that you want to see that offensive line come out and dominate. The other guys are going to get their name in the paper. But I think to this game, it can be dominant on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively, in the trenches.
And especially on a short week, too, when the bodies are still probably feeling a little bit banged up from Sunday, and both teams, the 49ers maybe got done with the Buccaneers a little bit earlier, but you still got to play through that. Meanwhile, Seattle was in a dogfight down to the end at SoFi Stadium. But, it's interesting you mentioned Eric Armstead, because he had 13 pressures last week against a Buccaneers team with a pretty good offensive line. And a lot of that is set up because of the one-on-one situations that you're talking about. So it might be a situation where we're seeing those interior rushers for San Francisco take on the brunt and kind of shoulder the load as they did last week against a Seattle team whose offensive line is not necessarily completely banged up, but is not very good, quite frankly. Meanwhile, for the 49ers, though they are getting Aaron Banks back, Spencer Burford is going to be out, so John Feliciano, as JD told us, is going to slide over to his spot. But I'm with you. And just when you're playing on a short week, too, how important is it to establish a point of attack and establish a presence at the line of scrimmage, knowing that both sides, honestly, are probably feeling still sore, but you got to find a way to fight through it and use that adrenaline to get you into a position where then you can kind of have that mini bye built in afterwards.
No question. I think the biggest thing was one on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday for both these teams. How much rest did they get? Did they put the right fluids in their bodies? How many of these guys got IVs? How many of these guys got massages? How many of these guys got in the cold tub? How many of these guys that said, hey, I'm going to get stretched out? They called their own chiropractor and got adjusted. Get the massage, a deep tissue massage to break up some of the, you're talking about the scar tissue and the inflammation. You got to break that up, the knots and stuff that you have in your body, to be in that pain on Monday and Tuesday and then flush it out, jump in the ice, and that ice makes the blood coagulates, and then it kind of gets to that spot, and then you get to that, then you put in that heat, and then the blood starts flowing through your body. That's what you do. When you ice, what happens is the blood slows down, so it gets there, brings that, and then once you heat up, now the blood flows even fluidly through your body. So that's what guys get in that heat and ice heat. You do those cold baths and those heat baths because you want to get blood circulation going through your body, especially when you're sore, like you're talking about, and your body's beat up. These are very important things that offensive linemen told receivers, everyone has to do. So it's going to be a matter of who got the best nutrition and whose body is ready to go ahead and take it. Because like you said, you're still feeling it. You're absolutely still feeling it today.
Well, we got about 45 minutes until both sides are filling it at Lumen Field. 49ers and Seahawks, Week 12 of the NFL. A chance for the 49ers to create some separation in the NFC. Also a chance to tie the Detroit Lions, who lost earlier today at home to Green Bay for the second seed in the NFC. Chance to close potentially a game on the Eagles, who got to play a tough opponent in Buffalo this weekend before the Week 13 matchup in Philadelphia between San Francisco and the Eagles. But first things first, the Seahawks are coming up. It's a big game at Lumen Field. San Francisco won last year, but as JD mentioned, has won 2 times in their last 12 trips. 7-3 right now, so a chance for the 49ers to pick up another W to continue and potentially build on another streak. They won 5 out of the gates, then they lost 3 in a row. Now today they have a chance to win another 3 in a row. But coming up next, we got an opportunity to get some predictions in, but I do want to hear from the people. So 888-957-9570 is the number. Also the text line, the Comcast Business text line. If you want to text in a prediction, whether it's a prop, whether it's a score, whether it's what you want to see from the 49ers here today, we want to hear from you. 888-957-9570. This is the Kickoff Show presented by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. I also do want to get Lorenzo Neal's thoughts on the other side about something I heard from a player that he used to play against, talking about where the league is at today and as it relates to the San Francisco 49ers. I want to get into that next as we continue on the Kickoff Show. Evan Giddings and Lorenzo Neal back after this. We are sponsored by AC Transit.
Get in where you fit in. AC Transit wants you to drive to East Bay. Take the wheel of your career and level up. No driving experience required. Paid training is provided. New bus operators are eligible for
opens for the whole family at a Skechers store, Skechers.com, or wherever stylish footwear is sold.
Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
This is the Kickoff Show. Evan Giddings alongside NFL legend Hall of Famer to be, we certainly hope, Lorenzo Neal. We're presented by Habas Law. If you've been wrong, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. Like, I know we're talking about the 49ers and the Seahawks, but I don't know if you got a chance to keep your eyes on what's going on with the Cowboys right now, but you played with one of the best corners that I've ever seen as far as a ball hawk, and Antonio Cromartie. This dude, Deron Bland, for the Cowboys, just took back his 5th pick 6 of the season. It's just unbelievable what some of these DBs are able to do nowadays.
It really is. When you watch Dallas, when you got a pass, like Dallas Cowboys, they can get after the quarterback. We know that. So it makes the corner's job a lot easier because now you can squat and you're like, look, they're not going to throw the ball deep. They're going to squat on a lot of stuff. They're going to jump stuff. You play some off man, off coverage. And the quarterback, the pressure's coming, so they're going to jump on stuff. And you have cornerbacks in Dallas, they see something and they jump on it. So it is amazing to watch that. Cromartie, like you said, he was long, got after it. But, hey, I played with some pretty good corners. Eric Allen, Quentin Jammer. Eric Allen was one of the better corners that I played with. A lot of guys. Aaron Glenn, the Detroit Lions, defensive coordinator, played with him with the Jets. So play with some guys that can absolutely take the ball away from guys and make it tough on you. But Dallas Cowboys, they got some good corners.
Well, and it kind of just gets my mind working, Lo, as, we're waiting for the 49ers to kick off 5:20, so about 45 minutes away. We're going to be taking you up until kickoff up at Lumen Field. When you look at the NFC and kind of the top 4 teams now, obviously the 49ers are there. They're tied, or hopefully with a win, could be tied with the Detroit Lions, who lost earlier today. The Philadelphia Eagles are 9-1, and they play on Sunday against the Bills. But then you got the Cowboys, who appear destined for their 8th win of the season as well. You got a jam-packed group at the top of the NFC. How do you kind of figure out which teams have advantages where? Because it does feel like, and partially because of the amount of injuries that the AFC and some of the best teams have suffered, a la Joe Burrow in Cincinnati, it does feel like the top 4 in the NFC appear to have some pretty dominant teams. And not that the AFC doesn't have that, but it's certainly a much more top-heavy in the NFC.
Yeah, and you look at the Niners team, I think they're better than what people give them. Of course, the 49ers just slapped around, and it made a Dallas Cowboys, it actually shocked the football world because you didn't compete. You're the Dallas Cowboys, and I make a joke because I know Mike McCarthy, we went to Pro Bowls together, great guy. I like him as a coach, and I made a joke one time. I said, hey, after the game, I went up to Mike and I gave him a movie. And I was like, what movie did you give him? I said, I gave him The Wizard of Oz, where he can go tell the team and make the team go and get a heart because of the way they played against the Niners. So I jokingly, tongue in cheek, but that's how it looked. It looked like those guys needed to get a heart and go see the Wizard because they didn't play well. But after that game, if you watch the way this Dallas Cowboys team has played, and in particular, Dak Prescott with his presence and what he's been able to do, they were in that Philly game and could have won that game. If you watch the Cowboys, they've been playing pretty good ball, especially after that loss to the 49ers. Was it that wake-up call? So when you think about the NFC, like you're alluding to, the Dallas Cowboys, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Detroit Lions, there are some teams that are playing well, but at times, it just all of them have shown signs except, Philly, they even lost to the Jets with, to a quarterback that's now benched. So when you think about it, even though it's top-heavy, all 3 of these teams have had the weeks where people are like, wow, these teams, are they really that good? Is this just a bad day? Because the Niners, that 3-game slid really caused time for panic, especially for the Niner Nation and just throughout the National Football League.
I think that's an excellent point, Lo. At this point in the season, you can kind of poke holes in any resume you want. With the 49ers, look, they got a 122-point differential, but you could say, oh, well, just look at that 3-game skid. A couple times the Cincinnati Bengals went into their building and beat the brakes off them. You could look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and even though they only have 1 loss, you could say they're a Marquez Valdez-Scantling catch away from being a 2-loss team. Or the fact that they lost to a guy that, like you said, is now sitting on the bench, and a dude named Boyle is taking his position in the Jets. That's a team that beat you. How did that happen? With the Cowboys, their wake-up call was in Week 5. So when I look at the 49ers compared to now the Dallas Cowboys, I do think that they still have an advantage, and partially because they're going to have the inside track should they take care of business tonight in Seattle to host a home game, maybe 2 home games in the playoffs. But the Dallas Cowboys, I think they did get that bell rung the same way the 49ers got their bell rung for 3 games. And now we're starting to see the best teams begin to play their best football, because as it pertains to the 49ers, one of the characteristics of Kyle Shanahan-led teams is playing their best football after the start of November or after the bye week. And Nick Bosa even said it himself, the season doesn't start until November. As a guy that's been in the trenches, not that the season doesn't officially start until November, but do you feel like at this time in the year, if a team is playing its best football, that's the type of identity, that's the team that we should expect to see?
No question. I'm going to tell you right now, you look at the Niners and people say, well, name me a couple teams that they beat with the winning record besides the Dallas Cowboys. If you think about who they've beaten this year, the Rams, who are the Rams?
Yeah.
Which team have, Tampa Bay, one of the worst rushing defense offenses in the league. So when you think about the Niners wins, how do you justify it? I'm going to ask you. So when you think about the Niners wins, what teams have they beaten that you say that's a playoff team besides the Cowboys?
Well, I think the win to me that was more impressive, even than maybe the Dallas game, because it was at home, was the Jacksonville game. I think going on the road to Jacksonville and laying the hammer on Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence was impressive to me.
I agree.
Also because, and I know they got the rest before they're coming out of a bye, but that was their best win of the season.
By far it was. I totally agree with you. Jacksonville is the biggest and best win of the year by far, in my opinion. So when you think about the league, though, and that's where you got to look at it, and that's where it's time to, say, okay, you want to crown him as Denny Green and say, crown him. I just don't know if I can crown anyone right now, because it's just, you just don't know. You look at the AFC, you look at what Baltimore, the kind of gauntlet they've been in, and they've had some letdowns of Cleveland, and they're winning Cleveland. But if you look at the Ravens, how good are they? You look at Kansas City, they haven't shown this dominance. You've seen some it's a chink in their armor. I don't think there's a clear-cut team that you say it's going to get into playoffs and just is going to win it. So I think teams are still jockeying for position, and that's why I agree with Nicky Bosa. November and December is where teams make that separation. You start to see who is really the dominant team and who's pretender, and who's pretender and who's for real.
And it kind of aligns with something that's, quite frankly, the GOAT said earlier this week, Tom Brady. And he was asked about the state of the league. And I don't know if you agree with this, Los. I want to get your thoughts on just how far we are in the season now and the fact that the top of the NFC is damn good. Now, the Cowboys have been beating up on bottom feeders. Even today against Washington, they smoked the Commanders, but the Washington Commanders are not objectively a great football team. The 49ers have a couple of marquee wins. The Eagles have a couple of marquee wins. But a lot of their lopsided victories have come against teams that you might label mediocre. And Tom Brady was talking about how he thinks that the league is more mediocre than it was during his heyday, during your heyday, and how some of the things that they're teaching now don't necessarily equate to greatness at a median type of level, that there is such a gap between the best and the worst. Do you think there are more mediocre teams than we've seen before, and that maybe makes it hard to judge the Niners, the Cowboys, the Eagles, because a lot of their big wins are against some mediocre teams?
Yeah, because the league is look, every era is going to say that they played in that era. And you think about when I came in the league, you could hit a receiver, he comes across the middle, you say, I'm going to give him a little chin music where I can say he doesn't want to come across there in the middle. You would go out and just smack him. We played, you could come in with your helmet and come in like a heat-seeking missile and take guys' heads off. So the intimidation, the fear factor, you lost that. So the game, and like Tom is saying, I agree with him. That's why he was able to play so long, because he played in two eras. So the game is weakened. The physicality is not there. It is a softer game. And I know guys don't want to hear it. Do I think the guys are stronger now? Yeah, they're still strong and they're fast and yeah, they're a little. But are they as durable now? No, I think that they're not. I think because of the fact they don't have calluses and they don't, training camps not 2 and 3 times a day. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, but Tom Brady's saying that now the parity is just, the level of competition has dropped off dramatically that you didn't see back in the day. Teams you knew that was going to dominate, they usually dominate. Very rarely did you see a team have this type of letdown. So I understand what he's saying. And I know players probably don't necessarily want to agree with it, but it is. It's the game is a lot more safer than because you want to protect the players, but there's a lot more injuries because guys just aren't as tough anymore, and that's just the fact.
No, that's to your point, Lo. There might be guys that are bigger, faster, stronger. That's just evolution. That's how it works. But the toughness aspect is different. And even though I haven't watched the NFL as long as you even played in it, I can see guys that aren't necessarily cognizant in the way they used to be even 5-10 years ago of protecting themselves or protecting their teammates. They're running full speed without seemingly an idea of what is going to happen on the other side. And so there aren't as many of those nuanced and kind of contextual small things that you guys were involved in at the highest of levels. And even, someone right now in the 49ers that I think kind of embodies that at the wide receiving position is someone like Brandon Ayuk, because he knows that he can create separation. He doesn't necessarily have a Tyreek Hill level of speed, the elite speed at the top of those top flight guys, but he knows how to avoid big hits. He knows when to get down. He knows how to keep himself in football games, and even though he might have to give up 2 or 3 yards, he might have to give up a couple of inches, he also understands the long game and the fact that he is more valuable for his team on the field than off the field. And I feel like watching Brandon Ayuk, I do feel like I'm kind of watching an old school receiver. Not necessarily that he's the biggest or the toughest, but he is smart with how he plays the game.
No question. I think another guy that's like that as an old school receiver is Debo. Mm-hmm. And if I told you, who does Debo remind you? Now you would know this guy. When I tell you, you're going to like, darn it, I should have said that. What receiver does he remind you of? Maybe he doesn't do as many as reverses, but just the physicality and how he plays. Who does he remind you of?
Did you play with him?
I got 2 of them.
Okay.
I didn't play with him, but I played against him and played in the same area, and he's a good friend of mine, Steven. Played for the Carolina Panthers. When you think about how physical and how he didn't care and how
Steve Smith,
Steve Smith would get in your face. Is that Debo embodied when you talk about physical, get in your face, mean, tough, fight you, doesn't care? That's who, when you think about Debo, he has some of the Steve Smith in him, in my opinion, a receiver that had that dog. Another one, but he's got same type of mentality. Now, Debo's way more athletic than this guy, is Hines Ward. You think about Hines Ward, wasn't going to necessarily beat you at his speed, but he was mean, he was physical, run over you, run through you, he would block you. So those receivers now that you're talking about, Ayuk, he reminds me of a guy, when you talk about route running, a guy from Fresno State. And the great Henry Ellard. You think about how smooth Henry Ellard get in and out of his routes, make guys leave him at the line because of his deceptive speed. So, yes, the Niners have, and you think about the offensive line. Think about which guy on that offensive line is mean. He'll punch you, he'll hit you, and everyone's scared of him. We're still one of the better offensive line in the league. Trent.
Yep.
Because he's old school. He brings that bravado. It's a reason why Shanahan went and said, I'm going to get that guy because he's mean, he's tough. The 49ers understand that. John Lynch understands that. He played in those eras. Kyle Shanahan coached with his dad. He's been in that era. Why do you think Kyle Shanahan's teams are mean in their physical? He understands there's no substitute for physicality. That's why I think that the Niners are still one of the better teams in the league.
And I think it's a common misunderstanding that Kyle Shanahan isn't an old school get-in-your-face head coach. And I think it's because he does it behind closed doors, which also, to his credit, is a little more old school. He doesn't call guys out as much out in public, but you can tell if someone's in the doghouse, as Lo Neal right now is in his own dojo, lighting the cigar. He's got the 225 back. By the way, you were asking me to count your reps during the break. I got you at 19. I didn't see the number 20. I could be wrong right there. I got Deebo Samuel, 19 reps for Lo Neal with 225 on the bench. What do you got?
No. I've been doing sets of 20 to 25. So I've been doing sets of 20 to 25. Never 19. Come on. I know you got people. I think you got fuzzy math. You got to learn how to count a little better. I've been in between breaks. I'm jumping in 25 or I'm doing 20. Not 19. Okay? Not 19. 20 to 25. Every commercial break.
Well, speaking of the number 19, I do think I see a big game for Deebo Samuel tonight. And we're talking about the kind of the interesting, I don't know, the relation between the new school and the old school players, or the guys that remind you of old school players. And I do think Deebo Samuel, you're right on. He's one of them, and it's a reason that he and Ayuk, I think, are such great complements to each other, because they can do different things, and yet they impact the game in an equally positive fashion. Deebo Samuel can hit you. He can lay you out. He can also get around you. He can wiggle if he needs to. He can beat you from behind the line of scrimmage. He can beat you 5 yards down the field, 10 yards down the field. Ayuk's got a great in-cutting route. He can tiptoe, get open in a phone booth. You know what I'm saying? Like, those are guys that together on the field, which is what Brock Purdy in this offense was missing when Deebo was out during the 3-game losing streak. You do lose a huge part of your offensive identity when one of them is not on the field.
No question, because one is a physical type and one is finesse. You look at Ayuk. Ayuk is very, very finesse. He knows how to get open. He knows how to lean on you, come out of the break. Very, very skillful in the route running. Debo's a physical guy. He's going to beat you with off the hand fighting. You can't hold him. It's hard to jam him at the line because he's just physical. He'll run through you because he's so powerful. And then Ayuk is going to beat you with his release. So you have two receivers that are different, but they complement each other very, very well. And guess what? The quarterback, Purdy, is very comfortable with those two guys, and that's why those guys he loves to feed.
And shout out to 49er George, 365, donating $20 low, not 19, $20 on YouTube, powered by First NorCal Credit Union. Low Neil with a cigar. Love what he does for all of us. You're a beast, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for the 20. We're going to keep this thing rolling. Absolutely. I'm doing a little early, like you said. I got the victory already going. I got the stogie in my hand. I'm jumping down. I'm going to knock out another 100 on the 225 before the night's over. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'm excited about watching this game. Like I said, it's about the trench guys. To me, tonight, I want to see how these guys are going to get after Geno. I want to see these guys whip forward. I want to see 4-down linemen create those mismatch, one-on-one up front, and I want to see guys eat. And I think that's what's going to set the Niners apart is the trenches. I believe offensively, you're going to be able to create that new line of scrimmage and be two-dimensional, not just one-dimensional. I don't think that the Seattle Seahawks can just make them one-dimensional where Purdy has to beat you in the air. If he has to, he can. But I don't think that they're going to shut down this Niners run game, because I think they're going to be able to create a line of scrimmage offensively and beat and push Seattle around up front. When you look at Seattle doesn't have their number one back. And when he's well, he's hell. He's 3 yards in a cloud of dust. He runs physical, and he gets Seattle in that 3rd and short or 2nd and short because of the fact they're winning on 1st and 2nd down. Now Seattle is going to have to play a different mindset. They might come out and have to throw the ball in like a run and get the 5-yard out, get the 5-yard completion to try to stay ahead on the sticks, because the inability to run the ball without your starting running back. So Seattle's they have an uphill battle. So it's going to be imperative that the Niners shut down the run and show them that they can't run the ball, and make sure that the Seattle Seahawks are doubting their running ability. That's going to play huge dividends for this 49ers and this 49ers defense if they want to get a win in the way that we think that they're possible can win tonight.
I'm with you. And look, and to your point, Kenneth Walker III, he's going to be out for Seattle. Geno Smith is in. Also, kind of pregame walkthrough, Geno Smith was not out on the field, but our reporter up in Seattle, John Dickinson, who joined us earlier, was saying that, just told me actually moments ago, Geno Smith is on the field and he is in pads, so he will be active for this game. Spencer Burford, meanwhile, is inactive for the 49ers. Opposite guard Aaron Banks is active in this football game. To Lowe's point, talking about the trenches, the 49ers aren't quite 100%, but they're a little more healthy than the Seahawks. And look, I do want to hear what the people got as far as predictions. keys, who you think is going to be the standout performer tonight. Last year, this time on Thursday Night Football against the Seahawks, McCaffrey had a huge game. George Kittle had 2 touchdowns. It was Brock Purdy's coming out party on the road playing with broken ribs. Who do you think is going to be the key to this football game? 888-957-9570. If you want to call in, that's also the Comcast Business text line. If you want to text in the score prediction, just tell us how excited you are about this football game because, Lo, I cannot wait. It's a rivalry game. Seattle 49ers, it's always huge, and especially in a place that can get as loud with the 12th man as Seattle can. I'm interested to see how they handle the noise because if they do walk out and try and bully the Seahawks in the trenches like we believe that they can, I think they can silence this crowd, and you might find yourself wondering, what is that? Is that silence? You might be not hearing anything if the 49ers can get this job done today.
No question, and that's why I want to hear those callers. Please call in. I want to hear you guys get off that couch. I know you got that turkey coma. You got to go ahead and get off the couch and go ahead and pick up the phone. I want to hear what you guys are thinking. What's going to be some of the keys? How are they going to quiet this crowd down the 12th man? Like you said, I want it to going to be so quiet. You're going to look over. They're going to say, man, it's so quiet in there that the people are going to look around into a corner and say, what's that noise? And it's so quiet that they hear a mouse peeing on a sponge. That's how quiet we want that place to be in there. Let's go Niners.
And Lowe's got the preemptive victory cigar. Look, and this is a matchup that I think everyone does expect San Francisco to walk away with a win in. So, a Seahawks victory would be an upset. The Niners right now are 7-point favorites. I know it opened at 6 points. But this is a Niners team that is third in the league, averaging just about 28 points per game. Lowe has set the bar, not the 225 bar that he's got in the background right now in his home gym, but the bar for the 49ers offense at 24 points. If they reach that mark, they are going to be difficult, if not impossible, to beat, especially on a night like this. To me, Lowe, the bar for the defense, because right now they're giving up 15.7 points per game. That's the number one scoring defense in the NFL. To me, if the Seahawks cannot score more than 16 points, if they meet the average that the 49ers defense has offered, I think that this game is going to be determined very early. To me, 24 is the number that Seattle has to get to because that's where I expect the Niners to be.
Yeah, I'm with you. They have to get to 24, and I just don't see that happening. I think the 49ers, they're not looking ahead. Cal Juszczyk said, hey, it's Super Bowl or bust. You hear what his guys saying. And there's some guys that understand this could be possibly their last year. So I think Cal Shanahan makes these guys understand, live in the moment, because next year is not promised on this particular team. And a lot of these guys understand whether it's salary cap casualty, whether it's just, moving on, whatever may happen. So live in this moment. You have the opportunity to win a Super Bowl this year. And so this Niner team knows what's at stake. And like you said, you are playing for the right to have the opportunity to be the number one seed, because if Buffalo does what they're capable of doing in beating, a Philadelphia team with one loss, and now you beat Philadelphia head to head, I think the Niners, they're not thinking about that game, but they know what's in front. These guys aren't stupid. I know it's every single game, it's game by week, but it's hard not to say, look, guys, let's take care of our business. Let's not worry about anything else. Let's go handle Seattle, because if we handle Seattle, we have earned the right to be in a situation that now we get to say we have our quarterback, we have our team, we're in full strength, and next week we get to go to Philadelphia to play the city of brotherly love, where they took away our quarterback. They caught a Hail Mary on the first play of the game that he didn't catch, that changed the trajectory of the team. There's so many things that happen. So what we have to do today is on Turkey Day, on Thanksgiving night, under lights, where the crowd and the nation are watching us. We're wrapping up the NFL slate tonight by being the last and final game. They saved the best for last. So, hey, they say when you get invited to the party, you need to dance your butt off. And tonight, the 49ers need to dance their butt off for victory.
When we come back, we got a lightning quick round, about 15 minutes left on the other side before the 49ers and the Seahawks kick off at Lumen Field. I want to hear from you at 888-957-9570. If you're on YouTube, chime in with predictions. Text us. The Comcast Business text line is open. 888-957-9570. Final predictions on the other side here on the Kickoff Show, presented by Habas Law. If you've been wronged, Habas Law will fight to make it right. Call 1-800-INJURED or visit habaslaw.com. That is Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings. We'll be back with one final segment to wrap up the Kickoff Show before the 49ers and the Seahawks go toe-to-toe at Lumen Field. We'll be back after this on 95.7 The Game.
Have you heard? The Xfinity Mobile Black Friday sale is on now. Don't miss out on a free line of unlimited for 2 years.
Now back to the Kickoff Show on 95.7 The Game.
I am so thankful for Lorenzo Neal. I mean, this guy is just something else. Everyone watching on YouTube, you've been dusting his shoulders off for 3 hours, my man.
Do you love it, brother? You love it. Hey, you know what? It's Thanksgiving. It's Turkey Day. Gobble, gobble, gobble. I'm so excited. You remember, back in the day where Seattle was eating turkey on the 50, laughing at the Niners. It's been just absolutely horrible. And now the tides have changed. And on Turkey Day, I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful that the Niners, Bang Bang Niner Games is in Seattle, and they're ready to put down the hammer on the Seattle Seahawks, baby.
About 15 minutes away from kickoff at Lumen Field, Week 12, 49ers, Seahawks, a rivalry like no other. No, you got me thinking, Lo. We're talking turkey, and look, Odyssey was nice enough. KCBS, all the stations here brought some Thanksgiving dinner for us. Grandy producing, and also is going to be on overtime along with Sterling Bennett right after the game between the 49ers and the Seahawks. So we've been filling ourselves up during the breaks. I know you've been getting your sets, and I got you, eight sets of 20 throughout these 3 hours?
Absolutely. 8 sets of 20, a couple sets of 25, so got in 200, on the bench. And I've been watching you eat turkey. I haven't eaten any turkey. You've been over there eating, grubbing, coming back, mouth all shiny and greasy. So I'm like, okay, my guy, okay, you get your grub on, and all I'm doing is getting these guns ready, baby, because I'm ready to play some football in 15 minutes. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
So who do you think is going to be eating the turkey leg at the end of this game? It might be a Seattle Seahawk. I personally think it's going to be a San Francisco 49er. But who do you think is going to be holding up that turkey leg the same way you're talking about Sherman was a few years back?
Man, I'm going to give it to the big fella. You got to let this guy eat. This guy is, I think, when you think about this offense, I know he doesn't get the credit that he deserves, but people talk about this guy, and that's Trent. I think Big Trent, you got to put him on the 50-yard line, and you give him one of those big turkey legs, because that big fella, he can eat. He's hungry. He's going to be road grading guys. He's going to be pushing guys 5-10 yards off the field. Give the man a turkey leg. Let him have a turkey leg at the 50. Woo!
Man, and that I cannot refute. And honestly, let's get a turkey leg for the whole offensive line today, because this is where the 49ers are going to win this game. It's going to be in the trenches. It's going to be at the point of attack, and it's going to be because of the 5 big boys up front getting turkey legs and getting holes open for number 23 and number 19 out of the backfield.
Yeah, I think this is going to be something magnificent is going to happen tonight. I really believe that you will have a player that do something legendary tonight. I think that, I don't know if it's McCaffrey with 150 yards combined. I don't know if it's Ayuk with over 100. I don't know if it's Hey Diddle Kittle down the middle for 130. I think there is going to be some fireworks, some explosion. I wouldn't be surprised if our boy Brock Purdy throws for over 250 to 300 yards. I think it's going to be that type of night. I think when you have elite talent, and you're playing on Thursday night, on Thanksgiving Day, both teams are going to play their butts off. They're going to play with a lot of bravado. We get that. But cream usually rise to the top, and I think the 49ers are the cream of the crop, and I think they want to perform. And I think that right now, today, in Philadelphia, these guys are already off of practice. They had a short day. The Philadelphia Eagles are watching this game. I know they got Buffalo, but don't think that the Philadelphia Eagles aren't watching this game saying, this is who we want. This is the team, and this is the game that everyone's going to be watching next week. And once the Niners take care of business, okay, guys, announce the next day, tomorrow, Philadelphia, they're saying, the Niners took care of business. Let's take care of ours, because we know what's at stake the following week. Prime time. The Philadelphia Eagles and the San Francisco 49ers next week will be prime time. And here's what Philadelphia has to be thinking. We've already taken down the number 1 team in the AFC and the Kansas City Chiefs, Mahomes, which arguably is the best quarterback in the league. And now we're getting ready to take on the San Francisco 49ers a week from today. And they're supposed to be one of the better teams in the NFC. Guys, we are making a statement. If you're the Philadelphia Eagles, one down, one more to go. That's how you got to be thinking if you're Philadelphia, because you just took care of the Dallas Cowboys 2 weeks ago. So Philadelphia, trust me, they're eating turkey. They're done eating. They're going to be watching this game 15 minutes. Every one of the Philadelphia Eagles are watching this game with great anticipation. And guess what? The 49ers are saying, so what? Watch this game. Get ready, because we're going to put on a show for you boys in Philadelphia. That's how I'm thinking. And that's why I like the 49ers to motorboat them tonight.
The 49ers have a chance. No, I'm with you, man. They should be fired up because the 49ers have a chance to send a shot across the bow tonight. And not just to the Eagles, not just to the Cowboys, but to the rest of the NFL, because every single person, like you're talking about, whether it's in the NFL, whether it's a young child sitting on their parents' lap, eating some Thanksgiving turkey, eating some stuffing. I'm personally a sweet potato pie guy. Give me all the yams. I love it all. But they got a chance, the 49ers do, to let everyone in the country know that's watching this football game, the nightcap, primetime, NBC, #1 broadcast crew, to let people know who they are and what they are about, which is physicality. It's going to be old school football, and it's in a hostile environment. Much like last year, Lo, I look for Christian McCaffrey to set the tone. And this is something that you've helped me recalibrate my thought process about, which is it's not about the amount of rushes. It's not about the amount of receptions. It's about the amount of touches. And last year in Seattle, Christian McCaffrey touched the ball 34 times heading into a short week, heading into a Thursday night game. I think this is a game where Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers can lean on number 23 because they know they got an extra 3 days to get ready for Philly. Why not give the ball to your best both running back, potentially best receiver, best overall weapon? Give the ball to McCaffrey and make Seattle stop him before anything else happens. I'm looking for a big game from C-Mac tonight, and I'm looking for a motorboat load of touches.
So am I, brother. I'm excited. After this, I'm going to go into the 49ers locker room, and I got a song that I'm going to present to them, and I think this should be their coming out song. And this team, I think they should sing it. You want to hear it, or you want to wait a little bit, or you got a bunch of callers that are dialing ready to...
No, right now, let them up, Lo.
Everywhere we go, people want to know who we are, so we tell them we are the Niners. The mighty 99ers. We come from Frisco, and we're going to the Super Bowl. So that's what you got to get this place. Got to get light. I think I'm gonna work. I got a couple more things I got to fix in that song, but I'm telling you, man, I think it's gonna catch on like sweet potatoes, baby. Like you like to say, yams. It's gonna be sweet. That song is gonna get. I'm gonna make sure this song. I'm gonna work with my team on it, and we're gonna perfect this song. I got a great group. These ladies, they are absolutely amazing singing. They're singers. Oh, Dee Dee's amazing. Miss Noni. Oh, my God. We're going to work on that song, and we're going to come back. I might even bring them on air and let them sing that song for you. It's going to be phenomenal, baby. We're going to march all the way to the Super Bowl. How about that?
Well, I'm glad you're workshopping it now, Lo, because it is week 12. That means you got 6-7 weeks, maybe even 10-11 if we're talking down the line into late January and February to workshop that song that the 49ers are going to display tonight in Seattle, because whether, it's who they are, it's where they're going that we're concerned about, that we're worried about, and that we want to see. But it all starts tonight. It all starts in 5 minutes. Lo, let me get a prediction for this game before we get out of here.
Yeah, I think this score is going to be 30-30. I'm going to go 30-17. I think the 49ers is too much 49ers. It's too much Debo. It's too much McCaffrey. I think that this is going to be a total effort. I think that collectively you're going to see the 49ers play one of their better games, because this is going to be their finest hour.
I'm right there with you. Give me the 49ers 27, Seattle 17. I think they're in control of this football game. I think they handle them at the line of scrimmage, and I think they walk away with a 10-point win. And it's going to be Trent Williams. It's going to be Aaron Banks. It's going to be Jake Brandel. It's going to be Colt McKivitz, John Feliciano. All the big boys up front are going to be eating turkey legs, along with Debo, Brock, Kittle, McCaffrey, and Ayuk. I think it's going to be a big night for the offense. And meanwhile, the defense is also going to have a chance to get after Geno Smith. I'm looking forward to that as well.
Oh, so am I. I can't wait. I cannot wait. A couple minutes before kickoff. It's just going to be a total team effort. And this is what you want guys to come out here healthy, understanding that this is Thanksgiving. They know what they're playing for. There's so many Americans and so many people that, that are looking to watch this game. It's the final game, nightcap of the night, of the evening. The 49ers happen to be one of the best teams in the National Football League. They just need to go and take care of business. I know that so many people, millions of Americans, are watching this game, and so much to be thankful for, not just football, but thankful for life, thankful for family, kids. I'm so thankful and so grateful, to be able to work with you. you for these last 3 hours. They flew, and I'm just grateful that we have the opportunity on the football pregame to be able to express ourselves and talk X's and O's and get people fired up about this awesome team that they root for.
And I'm thankful for you, Lorenzo Neal. I'm also thankful to Hugh Millan, who joins us earlier. I'm thankful to John Dickinson, who joined us earlier. I'm thankful to Mark Grandy here in studio. You can catch him and Sterling Bennett on Overtime after the final whistle between the 49ers and the Seahawks. I'm thankful to the station for giving us this platform. I'm thankful to my family. I'm going to go join and grab some sweet potato pie with. So, Lo, I look forward to doing it again with you soon, brother. I appreciate you, and I thank you for being here on Thanksgiving.
No worries. Cheers.
All right, that'll do it for the Kickoff Show. Again, we'll send it to Fox Sports Programming for now, but make sure to tune in right after the final whistle for Overtime with Mark Grandy and Sterling Bennett right here on 95.7 The Game. The Seahawks try to hold off the 49ers as San Francisco heads up to Lumen Field looking for a third straight win, fourth straight against the Seahawks. We'll see you on the other side. Appreciate you. That's Lorenzo Neal. My name is Evan Giddings saying so long on the Kickoff Show. You'll be listening to it on 95.7 The Game.
Yeah, I like you go Robert Kraft. He's another owner they've had 6 Super Bowls, but they're going to move on from you 2 years before they need to. And if you play for the Cowboys, they're going to keep you 2 years after they probably should have moved on from you. So if I'm a player, yeah, sign me up to play for Jerry.